Middlekauff!
Shanahan!
Live on YouTube on this Sunday night. A lot to talk about on this podcast. If you are watching this live stream, hit that like button. If you're listening to this podcast, it's great to have you consuming this at whatever point in time in your day you're consuming this.
Shanahan is actually closer than Haberman than I expected it to be when I said it out loud, but I didn't really think long about it.
Yeah. Did you see the guy on Northern Illinois football team? Somebody championship Saturday. Last name Haberman. Clyde, I think is his name.
Not the guy with the long hair that someone linked us.
Yeah, with the long hair.
Yeah, I did. I saw that.
Niners game just ended. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering, what time of day this is happening, this live version is happening. It's happening right after the Niner game. Do you think Shanahan was going to go for two? If they had found a way to score?
I do.
So the Niners went from
be the right play.
2-point conversion to win the game.
In fairness, I mean, I didn't think they had much of a chance when they started at their own 2-yard line. So just them driving down the field was pretty miraculous. But it's one of those things like our gambling. Once you turn $300 into 5 Gs, you have the 5 Gs. You are in their territory, right? So it's no longer a miracle once you make it that far. You actually start thinking okay, it's first and goal, right? So it went from, kind of a pipe dream to fucking real. And then it got really quick for Jimmy.
Yeah. The field gets tight down there in the baby zone, John.
Oh,
the field gets tight. Not a lot of room to operate.
Nope, not a lot of room. A lot of baby zone turnovers. Seattle had 2. He threw a pick.
Baby zone game.
Yeah, they had multiple because the fumble and the pick. The pick wasn't on Russell, but
yeah. What's it called? The delivery area of a hospital where the babies are born.
2 guys with 0 kids. I almost said the morgue. I'm like, that's not
incorrect. Although, as Rich Gannon once said,
yeah,
better to maternity ward.
Maternity ward.
Niners were good in the maternity ward today on defense, not on offense though.
No.
AKA the baby zone. Thank you, Bradley, in the stream for that. Hey, before we dive into a lot. If you're watching the stream, you might see a No Kid Hungry logo up above Middlekauff's head. There's a link in the description. If you're listening to the podcast, there's a link in the description. We're trying to raise money for a great cause. That cause is this awesome charity called No Kid Hungry. You can go to nokidhungry.org/ham. Through the end of the year, we're trying to raise $25,000. 1 in 6 kids at risk of hunger. Any time of year that's unacceptable. Holiday season that's unacceptable. So if you're a happy football fan today, channel your joy into a donation. If you're an angry football fan today, make yourself better. Feel better with a little bit of a donation to our campaign.
Yeah, I think we're already over 18,000. The goal last time I checked. So we're both on emails the last time we got it forwarded to us about the updates. So nokidhungry.org/ham. Do anything you can to help out. Every donation is tax deductible. So again, our goal is $25,000. We are, we're 7 short. So we just got to keep swinging, keep chopping wood, and keep getting donations from you people. So nokidhungry.org/ham. Let's go.
Yeah, we need your help. On the stream, can I donate from Ireland? It's a great question. Give it a shot. I would think so.
You can donate from anywhere. nokidhungry.org/ham. Just go to the website. Down in the description.
Yeah, I would think. All right. As somebody said on the stream earlier, this show is definitely brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka today. But look, Tito's is, we're just celebrating life, John, at any given time. That is an opportunity to celebrate Tito's. We are sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka.
Here's what I would do if I was Jed when Kyle was entering the plane. I would hand him one of these, and when Richard Hightower came up, I'd fake hand him one, and then I'd take it right back because I'd said, no soup for you, Mr. Hightower, your terrible special teams, because Tito's would not sponsor your effort today. Tito's #1 vodka in America. They only sponsor winners. So if they were going to send a bottle out, they'd send it to Russell or Pete because they won the game and not the atrocious job by the 49ers coaching staff. #1 vodka in America. Go have yourself a Tito's and soda.
That means tonight on his flight back from Vegas, Jack Del Rio is having a Tito's and soda. Maybe a John Daly.
Oh, Jack's having a double, guy. Jack's having a double, feet up. Him and Ron are toasting away.
Yep.
They're in the.
They're having a good
You
time.
talking about the 6-seeded Washington football team?
I'm talking about the 6-seed Washington football team. Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. So enjoy the Titos. We always do. We know a lot of you did over the weekend. Holidays are coming. It makes for a fantastic gift. I gave it to somebody as a gift on Friday night. And the beauty is when you take it to somebody's house and you give it to them as a gift, you get to crack the bottle and enjoy the fruits of your labor. The fruits of your labor. So Tito's, absolutely, we love it. Podcast also brought to you by MyBookie.ag. Promo code HAM and the number 1. Where right now, if you use the promo code HAM1, they'll match that deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. Remember, if you accept the bonus, you have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. You can also decline the bonus. But either way, HAM1, let them know that we sent you.
We're not hot right now. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1, our lock of the week. We have lost $1,500 our last 3 bets. We doubled down this weekend, 2 college games. Pretty embarrassing. Our first one, they got blown out. Our second one, I watched maybe 2 snaps. They didn't even deserve my attention. I am down, though, to keep chasing. 3 bets in a weekend is a lot, but I do like the Bills -3 tomorrow at home against a rookie quarterback. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1, Bills -3. What are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts
Rookie
are
quarterback.
Mac. You're talking about Mac Jones.
Yeah. 25-mile-an-hour winds.
You're talking about the 1 seed of the AFC right now, the New England Patriots.
I'm talking about the team everyone's betting on is going to be the Patriots. All the masses, we hang a left. They hang a right. It's like everyone sells their crypto right now. It's when you buy. When everyone hangs a right, you hang a left. So let's hang a left.
Yeah, I'm trying to
down,
get.
But I could also hold off. -3
look,
right now.
What I was going to say, 2 things. One, I'm trying to find 56% of the bets right now are on the Patriots. I don't know what the percentage of the money is, but that's, sometimes that's different. Like you can get the sharps with big money. The public's betting like, 1 unit, $5 a unit. It looks like there's a lot of money, but I think you're probably right. There's a lot on the Patriots. I do think the Patriots have just been more consistently a better football team than the Bills, but Bills are the home team. They're named after Bill, so they've got a good name. And honestly, not betting on a college football game sounds like a fantastic idea to me. I don't want to. I feel like this is the second year in a row we've gotten halfway in, gotten a little arrogant, gotten a little away from what our meat and potatoes is, and start go big bets on college football. And we're getting we were 15 in a row, including a parlay.
The NFL did get harder as the season went on, though. There weren't great bets. Like we didn't see bets we liked.
Yeah,
I love this one, so I'll wear this one, guy.
No. I loved the USC. So
yeah, I love San Diego State. Turns out 19 of their guys
too.
had COVID.
It's a team game, John. It's a team game. So yeah, I'm down.
Bills, Sean McDermott.
I don't want to start this week off bad. Bills, Sean McDermott.
Let's go. Let's get back.
All right.
Let's get back in the winner's circle.
All right, everybody. Let's talk about this football game. You need a second to lock that in?
No, it's locked. We're in.
Good. We're done. Was that 500 on that game, Monday Night Football?
500 on that one, baby. We still got 33 in the hopper. The only reason we have this much money, though, is because we bet that much. So we just got to keep swinging.
But mostly the reason we have that much money is because we nailed 11 bets in a row plus a 14 parlay.
Yeah, but like 4 of those were like $2,000, and the parlay was $2,000. So I mean, a lot of it was like, we had 1,500 betting 300s. We took huge steps when we upped our units.
I know. But getting it right is the most important part. Getting it right.
Yeah.
Well, as many people said on Twitter during the Niner game, a game befitting Sunday Night Football, Niner-Seahawks. I think you and I both said, even though the Niners should be the better football team, we expected Seattle's best shot against the 49ers on Sunday, and they got it. And I know people are talking about in the chat a pass interference on 3rd down in the end zone. Yeah. Was Trent Sherfield open if the ball doesn't get deflected? Sure. But here we go. That's the game. That's it. That's what Seattle Niner games look like. I'm glad the Seahawks are still up for that game. Who do they play next week? I think the bet is against Seattle next week. I don't even know who they play next week, but I know what they do against the Niners, and it's that.
Texans.
Yeah, give me the Texans and the points.
Probably be a tight game. I mean, that was the first quarter of that game was just an absolute shit show of crazy touchdowns, of fumbled balls, of interceptions, that fumble that Russell Wilson. It was nuts. We'll get into the special teams, which are just abysmal for the 49ers. They really are. There is not an element, whether it's returning, whether it's blocking, whether it's kicking. They're shitty at everything except punting. The punter's not bad. But it's just, what a shit show. I thought today overall was just, it's not like Seattle was that good, right? I mean, they lucked into a couple
not
fumbles
that good
themselves.
They tried to give you the ball. They gave you the ball at the goal line twice.
I mean, it was just
no.
It was just an abomination of a game all the way around. And for a team, ultimately Seattle they're 4-8 right now. Like, it's over for them. Like, their season's done.
No, Quandre Diggs told Kevin Harlan, we believe we get to 9-8.
Yeah, well, you can't. And the 49ers had a lot to play for. As I tweeted before the game started, a win today, they're basically a playoff lock. And that was without even knowing what the football team was going to do. Even if the football team had won, like, they still are going to, they got 4 games with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Once Minnesota lost and the Eagles, you own the tiebreaker, like, you had a lot on the line. And then they were winning. I mean, it was like early on, I was like, oh, they're kind of kicking their ass. Felt like Seattle was about to quit in the first half of that game. It was like, okay, go for the knockout shot. And I'm sure we'll get into the fucking quarterback who just, holy moly, he can, elevate some balls way too high. That only the guy 17 yards behind everybody does the little Willie Mays catch on his knees. And then he gets up, he's like, I got some room to run. But just, I thought, to me, I would sum up this game an embarrassment from the 49ers coaching. And thank God for George Kittle, who was just an absolute man-child. And to me, without them, and really Elijah Mitchell, too, was running his ass off.
I thought their pass rush was fantastic. I mean, they made so many plays behind the line of scrimmage. In the end, it was 6 TFLs and 4 sacks. Now, they did some dumb stuff in the backfield a couple of times, too, in some critical spots. But, to me, this is kind of the game that you play with Seattle a lot. Seattle's going to give – this version of Seattle. Even when Seattle's good, they play in a lot of games that look like that. This version of Seattle just asks to get beat. They really do. They ask to get beat. And for a Niners team that had so much to play for, and as we'll talk about, it's still in pretty good shape, which is, one of the crazy parts of this, because the NFC stinks. NFC is half as good as the AFC. Like, literally half as many good teams in the NFC as in the AFC. Most of the team, it's really 3/5 of the playoff teams, the NFC are the good NFC teams. I mean, they are, John. It's like Miami.
You're only judged on your high end. Like, I think the top of the NFC is better than the top.
No,
of the
it's
AFC.
just harder to make the playoffs in the AFC. It just is.
Oh, I don't disagree there. Yeah, but we're talking about the Niners at the lower end of the play relative to the lower end for sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying Indy's 7-6 and not in the playoffs right now in the AFC.
And they've beat the Niners. Yeah, Indy's better than the Niners.
They're just over 500. I mean, the Niners are 6-6 and are the 6th seed.
Well, today there's just no way around today. Like, the only way I can, like, this is just an embarrassing loss.
Actually, they're the 7th seed. Sorry.
It's just an embarrassing loss for Kyle Shanahan, but not like you said. Nick Bosa's playing his ass off. The other defensive linemen playing their ass off. Kittle, Elijah Mitchell playing their ass off.
Tiki at one point is like, Bosa, I'm watching him go back to the huddle. He doesn't have the normal energy he has. Yeah, because he's almost sacking the quarterback on 35 straight plays. He played incredible.
I thought 51's flying around and hitting people. But for the coaching staff.
DJ Jones is very good.
The coaching staff and Jimmy G take this L hard. I mean, hard. Because it's just, they wanted to give you the game so bad. And you're playing for something. If you were both 4-8, I'd be like, let's just fucking talk college football. Today was a joke NFL-wise, but this game mattered. And this is the type game that, who knows? You end up 8-9, you miss the playoffs by a game. This one's hard to shake. We were very, very critical last year, and rightfully so, of Kingsbury. The playoffs were there for him just to walk in and make the playoffs, and he just shit the bed down the stretch. And that's what the Niners. Their teams are different, but it just feels like, what am I watching? Like, this is not a well-coached, well-run operation right now. Just leaky all over the place. If they were a boat, they'd have a bunch of leaks all over the boat.
I feel like we've already started the topics that we weren't going to get to yet.
Well, it's just, I'm sorry, I can't even help it because the game, like, I don't even know what to say. Besides, like, the end of the game, they got a little lucky. They caused the turnovers. And the turnovers, listen, they've created a lot of them these last couple games, and it's kept them a lot tighter in these games that they have not played today they didn't play very well. They have played well in previous games. Today was not one of those. The turnovers kept them much, much closer. I mean, let's face it. The one pick that K1 got that actually a couple plays later led to a safety, I mean, that's an all-time lucky interception. And which happens, but I mean, it bounced off the offensive player twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, but they do nothing with
it.
But it just happened
in the end zone.
A couple plays later it goes to a safety, but no one stays in the end zone in that play.
No, I'm just, that's what should have happened. That's what he should have done. Easy for me to say, but it's what he should have done.
If I see one more time, too, Josh Norman celebrating on an overthrown ball, it's like, bro,
what the fuck is he yelling at the camera guy? The ball was thrown out of bounds. I don't know. What the fuck?
But he's like yelling at the camera guy / the fans, like, I did something. Bro.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The ball was thrown out of bounds. Russ was
getting
Russ it says was 30. Russ was 30 or 37. Didn't feel like that.
I thought his down the field throwing was pretty good, though. I mean, a lot of those were some of those.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was that bad.
No, I didn't think he was bad. To me, Russ missed some throws that he doesn't normally miss, but I guess he didn't really because he only missed 7 throws. Did not really have any interest in running. Russ is a different, that's the other thing. This was not even the normal mobile Russell Wilson that kind of kills you.
But that's what I'm saying, though. He had basically a touchdown that, what's his name, dropped.
Yeah.
Everett, who dropped. And he also had another play on the double pass that he did hit Lockett in the hands. Like, that was a remarkable throw, I mean, it was, it's tough because Lockett's a smaller player, but that's pretty fucking accurate throw, given especially that he had to kind of move over to his left as the pass rush was coming.
Yeah. But I guess my point is
there was a chance in the second half the Niners could have lost that game by 14 points. Like, they were getting thoroughly outplayed in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, my point on Russell was that Russ was not, his numbers 30 or 37, and like you said, he could have been 32 or 37 for 4 touchdowns instead of 2. But it wasn't the Russ take over and dominate the game. That's not what it was. Because he right now is overweight or hurt or something or both. I don't know. He doesn't move the same way. But the good news is, for him, he's playing the Niners secondary. And it's like every time Garoppolo throws the ball up, you hold your breath. Every time somebody throws the ball up on the Niners, you hold your breath. I mean, that double pass play shouldn't have had a chance. It took 85 seconds to unfold, was not good from the jump, and yet it had a shot. Tyler Lockett almost made a great catch on what was a really difficult, well-placed ball from Russell Wilson.
He's a fantastic player, though, Lockett. I mean, he's really good.
Yeah, he is. He got hurt and then was back, of course.
Yeah.
But same with, I guess, Elijah Mitchell. But look, the Niners deserved to lose the game. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it. And if they hadn't, it would have been one of those where you look at and say they got away with one, because you need to get away with them. And I think the story, if they had won the game, would be, Seattle just can't play a button down solid game. Niners didn't. There's no, I don't care.
But Seattle's not good. That's the thing. Like, they're a bad team. Like, they were 3-8 coming in this game. They've been atrocious. Like, they've been a bad football team. Like, I know we've been saying, like, Seattle, we expected the game to be tight, but they're bad. You're not playing the 8-3 Seattle Seahawks. You're playing the 3-8 team that's offense is atrocious, who you were kicking their ass in the first half before that touchdown at the end of the half. I mean, the Niners were up 23 to 14. They were in full control of the game.
Yeah,
really
after
at the end of the half,
and
then they missed the point after. They drive right down the field and score a touchdown. Seattle was there to kind of get, and then you were also getting the ball. So if you just could have stopped them, you were in position to fucking knock them out. And maybe it's just as simple as the Niners they are what they are. I mean, they're just a mediocre average team right now. They're not good enough to knock anyone out.
Well,
not that has good enough players.
Yeah, they don't. We've seen that a couple times where they've been in position to run away from a team and didn't.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing the Jags or the Texans or something, or the Bears, but a team like, the one thing I will give Seattle is no matter how poor they are at 3-8.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't look at this game like a 3-8 team did beat you if you're the Niners, but
my point is they're just terrible. Like, they've been terrible this season, and the Niners have been in that spot when they've been terrible.
I know,
too.
but I've seen Seattle.
And Kyle gets throttled when he's terrible, and Pete finds a way to win.
Well, Kyle's had some good wins when he's coaching a bad football team in years past.
Yeah, to go 6.
I mean,
he went 6 and 10.
Yeah, but you just said when you're terrible. So my point on Seattle is they just, like, when they're a good team, they play down. When they're a bad team, they can beat you, and they did. Now, they didn't take it. I mean, I guess you could argue they took it a little bit, But the Niners gave them every opportunity to win the game, and so they did. But, I mean, the Niners deserved to lose. I'm not really sure Seattle deserved to win. Maybe nobody deserved to win, and somebody had to. That's why if you had won the game, if you were San Francisco, I would say you don't apologize for that. That's the way a season goes. Is sometimes you win games you don't deserve to win. So that doesn't really matter.
I did think Seattle played him in the second half, though, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, like, you turn the ball over on the goal line, like, that's on you. That's part of you not outplaying somebody. I still thought that the Niners got to the quarterback a lot. The Niners actually were able to string some drives together.
I mean, Guy, they had 2 turnovers on the 1-yard line.
Yeah, the first one, the deflected ball's bad, but the fumble, like, you guys just brought Adrian Peterson to be a running back, and guess what he does? He fumbles, and guess what he did? He fumbled. Well, that wasn't him on the second one. But
I think it was Homer.
But, yeah, to me, I have a hard time getting mad about third down holdings because you didn't play well enough. You deserve to lose. It's the simplest way to put it. You deserve to lose the game. And I don't know, were they not? I'm not going to say they weren't locked in enough. This is just what they look like. This is what they look like, by and large, the Niners. This is what they look like, especially when they can't. Especially when they can't take over with 14-play running drives.
Well, it shows you, like, at 6-6, they're not that much different than a 4-8 team. I mean, they're closer to being 4-8 as a team than being an 8-4 team. That's the sad reality, which to me is a reflection of, the people running it, which is just a problem.
Meaning what?
Well, you want to get into Kyle right now and the coaching staff?
Okay.
Well, like, to me, like, there are 8-4. There are teams that are, if the Niners would have won this game, they would have been whatever, right? They were what, 6-5? They would have been 7-5. Like, they to me feel closer to 5-7 team that I've watched all season than to be in a 7-5, 8-4 team. Like, they feel like Seattle, who's I've watched Seattle all season. They have been shitty. And listen, we're talking about Pete getting fired, right? Pete getting forced into retirement. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Kyle. I'm not trying to overreact to the one game. I'm just saying, like, this team has been, for the most part, in a lot of these tight games, like, they kicked some ass the last couple games. But as we've said, like, it's not going to be that easy just to have these games where Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw fucking 20 times a game. That's not normal. And they get in these positions. One, Kyle's special teams coach, I don't want to spend too much time talking about special teams because I don't care. But do you know the sad reality is? Neither does Kyle. Clearly. It does not care at all. It does not give a shit about special teams because their special teams is an abomination, an absolute embarrassment to the National Football League. It is that terrible. And everything that happens, it's like, well, Middlekauff, Robbie Gould, he shot. Well, okay. So we acknowledge the special teams coach has nothing to do with the kicker or the punter. Well, his players that return the ball constantly fumble. Ayuk does stupid shit nonstop. They can't fucking tackle any. They do nothing well, not even remotely well. Back-to-back weeks. Last week it was 100 yards. This week it was like 80 yards. I mean, you're just giving up free touchdowns in a game that you lost by 7 points. I mean, that's a free on the first series of the game. You get a 3-and-out, and the dude they run a fake punt that was. I would say that's about as easy of a fake punt touchdown going the full length of the field as you're ever going to see, right?
I've never seen that one go 73 yards. The direct snap to the up man. I thought the two special teams plays, that one and for Travis Benjamin to fumble with one, you fumble with two hands on the football and somebody just rips it out going into a pile. But if you've got a situation like that, was the coaching point, hey, Travis, here's what we can't have happen. We just can't have you fumble this kickoff return coming out for the second half. We need you to hold on to the football at all other costs. Did they say that to him? Did they say it and he forgot it? Or did nobody say it to him? That play to me was that and the fake. Those two were beyond. I mean, in a game like this, what's acceptable? Especially when you're playing a 3-8 team. Like, you've got to be ready on their first punt for them to do something desperate because they got nothing to lose.
And listen, I'm not saying I want Kyle as my head coach / offensive coordinator, but ultimately the special teams, that does fall under his umbrella. He's the head coach. And I get Hightower's his guy. They've known him forever. And I'm not trying to make this personal, but it's like their special teams are hideous. I mean, they are really, really bad. And last week, it could have cost them the game. They got lucky, right? Like, a big difference is Cousins just, even if Russell's a little off, Russell just has more in the bag than Cousins, right? Like, you saw that today. Let's say Russell we've been watching him for a decade. That's 75% of the greatness of we've seen or something, right? That we saw today, would you say?
Russell's greatness?
Yeah, I'm just saying, if Russell's greatness is 100%, what do you think you witnessed today?
No, not 75.
Yeah, I think you're underselling him. He was throwing some great deep balls today.
He's
older. But he doesn't run as fast as he did for last couple years. But I hear what you're saying. Okay, let's say 60%, whatever. Like, special teams cost them the game, missing extra points, right? Because even if they scored, it was like, do they go for 2? Well, that extra point, it's like they're paying this guy a lot of money. Like, this is on them. Like Dabo said, every fucking player on that field and every guy you sign is under your umbrella. So my angst of the coaching staff today is more like personnel stuff. It's more the special team stuff. Like that, Kyle just does nothing. We know he's not going to cut anybody. We know he's not going to fire anybody. So it's like nothing just changes. But what's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing over and over. So it's like, well, nothing. Why would anything change? They're just going to play in these crazy games and maybe be 8-9, maybe be 9-8. I don't know. But it's a sloppy operation. If they just can't run it down someone's throat, which I've been saying for a while, is not. I love that football. So do you. Like, so does most old school people. It's just not that realistic every single game, right? And you saw today. Seattle was ready.
All this stuff we're talking about, I believe this, and I've said this for months. The primary reason the 49ers are what they are is that their quarterback is a roller coaster. He just is. And in moments when you need to throw, they're afraid to throw. Their 2-minute offense, no. Their 30-second offense is a kneel play, and let's get to the locker room. That's the number one reason. So because that's their problem, because their quarterback is unpredictable, they can't commit 10 penalties. They can't commit 2 roughings on one drive. They can't commit another roughing on a third down play. They can't have a block in the back on a big down, although it didn't kill them on the Trent Sherfield.
They have a lot of false start. They have a lot of false starts on offense.
How many illegal snaps do we have? 2 or 3 this year already. Actually, that one dodged a bullet. They got the Mitchell, by the way, should have been a fumble. I don't know how that play got overturned. And I can't believe he came back into the game, but I thought his knee was definitely not down, and it should have been a fumble. But that's different.
It was a knockout, but he came too quick.
Oh, yeah, okay. But because of, let's start at the top of the pyramid. Because of Jimmy, they got to be good on special teams. They can't have 10 penalties on the road, let alone at all. The 2 roughing penalties, and I get it, like some of these roughing penalties are bullshit, but they are what they are. This is the deal. You jump on the quarterback and ride him to the ground after the ball's out. It's just going to be a penalty, period. You cannot leave. The Arden Key one was inexplicable. Leaping into Russell Wilson's helmet with his own helmet after the ball was gone. Like, dude, what are you doing?
But all this stuff is a reflection of, like,
oh yeah,
we talk about like the New England Patriots, the good teams, like they're just more buttoned down operation. Why is Kyle can dial up plays. Hell, even if Jimmy's just decent, he can move the ball down, call some sweet plays, get Kittle open. Nobody in maybe I didn't watch Walsh in his prime. Nobody gets the fullback open down 15 yards down the field like Kyle Shanahan. But like again, he's not Joe Brady here, right? Or what Joe Brady was until he got fired today.
What is that? I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. But he's not just the offensive coordinator. Like, all this shit is reflective of him. It's why, it's like I just never see him. It doesn't even matter what I see. It's just not happening. And a lot of stuff goes, and I don't want him to not be the offensive coordinator, but it does feel like he's got to get either the right coaches in there that can handle it. And again, I go more the defensive shit. I can live a little bit with
penalties of aggression.
Yeah, and it was kind of ticky-tack. I mean, Arden Key's a backup. It sucks. But I didn't think most of their defensive penalties were like fucking fireable offenses. The special team shit, that is his guy, and it's killing him. It cost them the game. He gave up a 7-point, fucking 80-yard fake punt to the up man, untouched. They lose the game by 7. And you can say, well, that's a first touchdown of the game. Whatever. But it's like they lost by 7, and that happens. I watched football all day, really the last 2 days, really the last 3 days, because if you start with the Oregon and Utah, no fake special teams plays that I see go 80 for a touchdown. Not one. This guy's terrible. He's one of the worst coaches in the league. Like, and it's like, Middlekauff, that's what every front office guy with the 49ers is saying. They're just not allowed to say it out loud. That's what some of the that's what D'Amico and some of his staff got to be thinking. This guy's killing them. This guy's killing them. I mean, it's one thing to just have a muff punter here. We're human,
Well, the fumble
right?
tied the game, basically. I mean, because the fumble led to the interception came after the fumble, which then led to the safety. The Gerald Everett interception came after the Travis Benjamin fumble, which then was the safety at the 1 yard line.
And then the Niners never.
So it's basically 9 points that your special teams put you in either directly or indirectly led to, plus the missed extra point, which is not. I mean, that's not the special teams coach's fault, but there's 10 points.
But I hear a lot of people saying that, and listen, I'm with you.
Saying what?
Robbie, but it's like that's his unit, right? I mean, that's his guy.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, I don't even know how to attribute that to a coach, especially if the guy misses for the first time.
Yeah, Robbie's just a poor signing, and they went all in on it. He's just not a trustworthy player right now. I think we all agree there. But it's like you said, their special teams unit is costing them a lot of points. It's one thing like 5 yards, which they do not cover very well. I mean, every time today, it's not like the guy was getting tackled at the 20. The guy was making it to the 35, 40-yard line every play. So they don't cover anybody, and they're giving up points. Right? It's like, well, the defense is naturally going to give up points. It's 2021 in the NFL. When your special teams is giving up the last 2 games, like you said, basically 9 points today, 7 points yesterday, it's hard to overcome, man. They got lucky last week because the Minnesota clearly is not the most buttoned-down operation, as we saw today, losing to Big DC in Detroit. But, God, what to me, Hightower is on Kyle, though. That's on Kyle. And I think sometimes we can be too harsh on assistant coaches. Sometimes we don't know offensive or defensively scheme. Like they might be coaching the player the right way. The player might just be an idiot or whatever. But this one's overboard by now. Like it's pretty crazy watching it. It's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
And again, the guy this is not, the guy ain't making $80,000. I mean, there's a chance he makes $1 million. That's the going rate. It's what these assistants now make in the league, coordinate. High pressure job, you either produce or you get fired, And I mean, I get it's his friend, but holy shit. I mean, it's just when the Niners were really good under Jim Harbaugh, to sustain being good, you have to be decent at all 3 units. Clearly, the Niners can be decent at offense, and they can be decent at defense. Their special teams is statistically, I have no clue where they rank, but if they're not dead last, I don't know who is.
In what?
Just as a unit.
Yeah,
I mean, if I had to pick their unit, they
kick return defense, opponent kick return yards, they are 20. No, they are 2. Patriots are worst. 32, 31, 30, 29, 28. Steelers, Colts, Packers, Patriots. That's a weird group to have worse than you.
Special team stats are weird. I just know they're giving up points.
Opponent punt return yards, they're 3rd best. Anyway. I was watching, who was it the other day? I think it was Kalen DeBoer. I was watching somebody's introductory press conference. It wasn't Lincoln Riley. It might have been Kalen DeBoer, and he mentioned special teams.
Cristobal's at Miami?
It wasn't Cristobal's, who at last check is still. I just saw a tweet from 5 minutes ago of a kid tweeting out a photo with him and Cristobal in the living room with putting up the O. So maybe he hasn't docu-signed that thing yet. It hasn't gotten to the I don't know.
Is that how they
hasn't gotten to the Jeep Grand Cherokee?
We used to do faxes. I would imagine they just do docu-sign now. I'm gonna
look into that. But I mean, Mario's not I mean, his contract. Like, what is going on? Where these kids? Maybe did the kid tweet this photo from this morning? I mean, the kid just tweeted 14 minutes ago. That means it was after 5 p.m. on Sunday. A photo of him and Mario Cristobal in the living room from today.
The highlight of the day is the Alamo Bowl press conference with an interim coach, Bob Stoops, as they've hired a new coach, and Mario, who wasn't even potentially their coach anymore. That's hard to beat.
Looking forward to the opportunity to coach him in the Alamo Bowl. Was he going to stay for the Alamo Bowl?
I'm a sucker for the Alamo Bowl. It's always one of my favorites.
Alamo Bowl is a good game, and that's actually kind of a sweet game. Are you kidding me? Oklahoma, Oregon.
I just don't know if I can watch that quarterback anymore. I've had enough.
Well, maybe he doesn't play. I mean, because to me, bowl games are their first game of 2022, not your last game of 2021.
Oh, you tell me he's not playing? I'm in.
Ty Thompson, baby. But anyway, so Kalen, I think it was Kalen DeBoer, does his press conference, and he mentions all 3 phases in special teams. And it occurred to me that most coaches don't mention special teams in their introductory press conferences. Now, they don't necessarily say anything but cliches in the introductory press conferences, so whatever. But I do remember talking to one coach this year before one of his games, and he's a defensive coach, not an offensive coach. And I tend to think that defensive coaches probably talk about special teams more than offensive coaches do. But he went on for 20 minutes about special teams and the studies they've done about special teams and starting field position and all of that. And I always think about, when we talk about special teams, the year that the Niners drafted Mitch Wishnowsky, that Kyle Shanahan said, like, funny, joking, but said it like he hopes he never has to watch special teams punter film again. I don't know if he was talking just about punter film or just special teams film in general, but he made it clear, like, special teams bores him. Punting bores him. And that's just not how, like, Belichick doesn't think like that, right? Saban wouldn't dare think like that. Now, again, he might have just been talking about, I don't want to watch punter tape, college punter tape, which I would understand. That's different than just prepping for a special teams game, but maybe it's an insight into how he thinks about special teams.
Well, I'll give you an example. I've been around Coach Reed before practice and going out to practice. Andy's not big into special teams. Do you know what he did when he got to Kansas City? He bought David Tobe, who's his special teams coach, who a lot of people thought was going to, like, I know Cam Worrell, who played for him in Chicago. They think this guy was like John Harbaugh, right? Like, he should have got his shot to be a head coach. He is of the Harbaugh mold. But for whatever reason, I think the league's become so offensive, it's been hard for that guy to get the job. So Andy's just had arguably the best special teams coach run his operation. So it's like, he doesn't have to fuck with it, but he also pays a guy $2 million. Just that's his baby. Kyle just, like, hired his friend, which is fine, but clearly this guy's over his head, like, getting smoked. And I gotta listen. Kyle had an abysmal play call on that 4th and 1 where they got lucky, where he took 44 and 85 off the field in a play where he was going to run it. Did you see, like, they had the far view, the cameras coming in from Seattle sideline, and I see Kittle and Juszczyk running off. I'm like, Kyle, what are we doing here? You need those guys in to just fucking block people, because it's clear he was going to run the ball. And then he runs, clearly they had told Jimmy, do the quarterback, do the RPO, but keep it, it'll be there, which, whatever. It wasn't even close. And they got bailed out because what? It was a delay of game? Is that what happened?
No, that was the bad snap.
Which I don't even, what does that even mean?
Well, he snapped the ball, it, like, slipped, then he grabbed it and snapped it. It was
so they ended up getting a 4th and 6 and got to punt it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, you agree. Listen, we could nitpick Walsh, Parcells, Belichick, any individual call, but at that moment, that was pretty nuts, that play call.
I hated
the
crazy. But, again, to me, the stuff that we criticize with Kyle, his play calling usually is not. His play calling usually is nailed.
They were kind of
it was a bad call, but that didn't cost him the game, right? Because they probably end up punting anyway, even if that play works, because there's a penalty.
Yeah, well, what if they don't? I mean, well, no. I'm saying, what if the Mac doesn't fuck it up and Seattle gets it right there and scores?
Well, yeah, it's bad. But I'm just saying the play, there was a bad snap. They got whatever would have happened. It didn't matter if they had hit Brandon Ayuk for an 80-yard bomb, which never would have happened. But no matter what happened there, I'm just saying, of all the things, I think there's a lot of stuff that's fair to criticize Kyle. That play call sucked, but by and large, that's not his play calls are not his problem.
But I do think it's okay, and I said this earlier in the season, and he'd had a great month because he was able to dictate the terms. Sometimes when he can't dictate the terms, and we'll get into the quarterback, and that is a problem. When you have a quarterback who today played like a bottom 10 guy in the league, it's hard to overcome that. It's hard to be a play caller for it. But, like, Kyle could just have a bad game. Like, everything that happens on the field is on him. Like, to me, it just reflects he had a poor game. And in some big moments, some shitty play calls. Like, that was bad. He also makes some good play calls because he's a good play caller. But he can have a bad game. And I thought he just had a pretty bad game.
Yeah, I thought his bad game was his team's penalties and his special teams, not his offense.
Yeah, I mean, that offensive play call, I mean, in that spot. Like,
I agree, it's terrible, but, like, whatever. Like, that's okay. His team still was in position to win the football game without 9 other things that they did wrong. I'm just, I'm not going to one play call Kyle. It's just, one play call Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of freaked out late in the fourth quarter, guy, in a big spot. Like, it's like, Jesus, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Sometimes you do some shit at work. Sometimes it doesn't. whatever. Like, that's not why they lost the football game, that one play call.
Yeah, I mean,
It was bad, but sometimes you make bad play calls. It was terrible. I hated everything about it.
I just don't know who in the headset is like, hey, Kyle, you really want Kittle and Juszczyk coming off on this play? Kyle, we sure? Yeah, Kyle, Elijah Mitchell's not in this play either. What the fuck are we doing? Is there nobody? And this is sometimes like wonder, like, I get it, Andy, Bill, they've been doing this for 40 fucking years. They got a ton of pelts on the wall. Kyle is in the same situation. There ain't a soul like, Kyle, I don't think this is a good idea. He can just do whatever he wants. I think no one questions him. Nobody. And I just don't know if that's always the healthiest spot in some of these huge. Today was massive, guy. Today was a big fucking game.
I understand, but he does
piss down their leg.
He does 100 things that are unconventional offensively. Jeff Wilson playing tight end and Brandon Ayuk with his hand in the dirt. That one was terrible. I'm not denying it. I'm just saying that's not why they lost the football game.
A massive spot, though, with the game on the line.
Yeah, and as it turned out, it didn't. Even if he had called the greatest play on earth, it wouldn't have mattered because they got a penalty and would have punted the football. So it didn't cost him the football game. That's my point. It didn't.
To me, it reflected today. Like that play was a microcosm.
I disagree because I think they hit a lot of plays that they had to hit in critical spots. Kittle all over the place, getting Kittle involved. I thought, to me, the bigger issue was, and I know we heard the explanation, but there's really no way to use Trey Lance. There's no way to use Trey Lance when you're on the goal line late and you cannot run the football. When you're under 3 yards of carry, your quarterback is obviously not a running threat, and he's not that trustworthy as a thrower. For one of the most creative coaches in the league, there's no way to use Trey Lance. That's the part to me.
Didn't we just talk about this a couple days ago?
I know, but to me, there is a difference between packages and like having him run the offense for series. And is there no way to use a creative, useful, talented, unique player?
Sure doesn't feel like he's into that right now. And where I'm not going to
get
that
to me is the bigger issue.
I would agree, but he just told us like he's just over it. He's just over that situation, which is also reflective of like, Kyle, I understand. I'm with you. Like not understanding the defenses when you put him in there. Just you can't have 2 plays for him. Just hey, if we ever get into a 2nd and 5 situation, if we ever get into a 3rd and 1 situation, we got 2 plays for you, Trey. Which he scrapped it. He's waved the white flag on Trey Lance. Not even debatable at this point, right? After today.
No, he doesn't. All those plays he drew up on the plane back from Justin Fields' pro day, I don't know where they are, but you could use a couple of them. Everyone else
would Andy Reid, if he had Trey Lance, even if he was redshirting, but he had the ability to run like this, would he use him?
I mean, he had Pat Mahomes and didn't really use him, right? And
different though, because he was a passing quarterback. I'm talking about in a zone read situation.
Maybe the difference is that Alex was a more athletic player than Jimmy, but to me, it's like in a given week where you have nothing from your run game. Nothing. Did Jeff Wilson's run get called back? Was there a penalty on Jeff Wilson's big play? Because I'm not seeing it in the box score. Okay.
Yeah, it was holding on our guy, which again, I hear all these great things. I know Larry Fitzgerald loves him, and I bet he's a great guy. Like you'd want to have dinner with him. But Trent Sherfield had some terrible penalties today. Holy moly. He held on that one. Or he blocked in the back on twice. Or he held on that one, blocked in the back, or maybe they were both blocking the backs. Because he was the outside receiver.
The block in the back was bad. You know who blocks well is Juwan Jennings.
We see that guy's a monster.
He can block. But
yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing for Kyle Shanahan, he's got the Chip Kelly in him, right? Because he loves the edge runs, so he's big on his wide receivers blocking. I think that's like his number one point. He tells the scouts, like, "Hey, coach, he can really stretch the vertical." Like, no, I don't care. How does he? Where are his hands and feet on runs? It's like, Kyle, there was just some stubbornness right now to Kyle. He told us. It's why I'm not going to get worked up, though, over the Trey Lance thing. He literally said it. Kind of more big picture, but like it clearly reflects his short-term thinking, too. Right? Like, I don't even have time to waste on this fucking kid right now. Which, to me, seems a little crazy.
Yeah, then he's thinking about it wrong. He's thinking about him like, how can I incorporate him as a quarterback as opposed to how can I use this piece?
He's stubborn, man.
I don't know. Maybe he didn't expect 2.8 yards per carry in this game. But the Kittle play worked. See, I thought he actually hit a lot of good plays in the game.
I'm not arguing that he – no, I'm not saying that he again, I want him as my play caller.
I understand. But my point, when I say that, my point is even with the play that we all hate equally, I thought he had a good play calling game for the most part. I didn't think that was their problem. Their problem
but I'm saying like you can have a great play, or I mean great calls all game long, even on the final stretch, get that use check play, getting Kittle down the sideline. You can do great things. There are certain plays in a fourth quarter of a tie game or down 7, right? That are just, I know coaches will tell you not one play defines the game, because if we block the right play on the second quarter, on the third down play, right? I mean, we could play that, but it does just mean more in the fourth quarter when you're down 7, like the game's on the line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No doubt.
It does feel sometimes like, I don't want to say he's herky-jerky, but like I've only really seen him 1 year with a good team, so it's hard to know. We're talking like, I don't know. Like, is he going to go for 2? Is he not going to go for 2? Is Kyle, like, is he going for fourth down because he doesn't feel his defense can get a stop? Or is it just like kind of knee-jerk reaction?
I thought it was because they had to get a first, because they had to keep the football.
Because the defense was kind of getting shredded at the time.
Not even so much. It's just like, we've got the ball right now. We're down. We have to go score a touchdown. But
they weren't even to the. I mean, it was a midfield where
they
were in the game. Not even. Yeah. I think it was like 40, right?
Yeah, but that's what it felt like to me. That it was more about his offense. Just, we've got the ball. We should be able to pick up a yard. Quarterback gun run. Not my idea of a good play. I don't think it's anybody. I know it's not anybody's.
And again, he's never had a season like this, right? Last year was scrapped early on. His Super Bowl season, he had such a lead on everything. Even though that final game he had to win the division. But like as the season went on, like he's been behind the 8 ball now, and he's trying to climb and kind of getting a feel for, just his coachings, what he likes to do, some of what his tendencies are to go for it, to not go for it, right? Like I still don't have a great feel all the time, like what Kyle's going to do, which is fine. He's a younger coach. But, and again, it goes back to like what you say, and we'll get into Jimmy, like it is difficult when your play calling is kind of hamstrung. Because everyone's like on Twitter, once Jimmy throws the second pick, like, I can't wait to watch Kyle light into him. Like, no one wants, because if you light into him, that means he's a fucking disaster on everyone's hands. So that's.
What do you mean?
Because people get excited when Jimmy throws a pick for Kyle to like scream at him.
Now like, you're saying like people think like now Kyle's going to say to him the things that I need to say to him myself.
Yeah, but it's like that's a problem.
Yeah, he's got to use those judiciously. He can't be screaming at him on the sideline of every game.
Now Kyle doesn't want to scream at him, right? But he can't, like his quarterback. Yeah, let's get into Jimmy, I guess.
Before we do
on Kyle.
No, I mean yes. I mean the answer is yes. We got plenty more on Kyle, but that's ongoing, like everything. It's always ongoing. But let's tell the people, John, about Indeed. Indeed. Indeed.com/ham. Indeed.com/ham. Multiple times over the last few days, I've been somewhere and somebody told me, you know what? I'm not sure. I'm new here. Let me get that answer for you. I don't know. Maybe that place didn't use Indeed, where you can be sure, because Indeed is the #1 source of hires in the U.S., according to Talent Nest. Indeed.com/ham.
Yep, guy. With tools like Indeed Instant Match, giving you quality candidates whose resume on Indeed fits your job description, you can choose from more than 130 skill sets, then add your must-have requirements so you only pay for the applications that meet them. You want to find specific people for your specific jobs, and then you hire them. Small business owners, anyone listening to this, use Indeed, because right now you get $75 of a free sponsored job credit if you upgrade your post at Indeed.com/ham. According to Talent Nest, guy, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all job sites combined. How do you beat that?
You can't. 1.5 more hires than even internal referrals. 1.5 times more hires than internal referrals. 73% of all online job seekers in the U.S. visit Indeed each month. So you do it all in one place with Indeed. Okay, they are the hiring partner to get you what you really want, which is a list of quality candidates as fast as you can. They can attract, they can interview, they can hire, all at Indeed. Indeed.com/ham. That's Indeed.com/ham. Podcast also brought to you by Liquid IV. liquidiv.com, code HAM at checkout.
Now we talking, because here's the key, guy. You want to stay hydrated. The more hydrated you are, better, clearer you think, the better you feel, and you just get to kick butt and take names. Because I've been using Liquid IV. I'm sure you've been using Liquid IV. They've sent me a lot of Liquid IV. I have a lot of Liquid IV at my house. I could give it out for Christmas if anyone wants to come over. Contains 5 essential vitamins, more vitamin C than an orange. How about that? And much more potassium than a banana. Think about, when you play soccer as a little kid and they give you oranges and bananas. Liquid IV does that. I just hand the Liquid IV to the kids. Open your mouth, son. Pour that bad boy right in there with a little bottle of water, 16 ounces, doubles your hydration. The optimal ratio of glucose, sodium, potassium delivers water and nutrients into your bloodstream. I'm telling you, in the morning, you said you take a bottle of water or drink a cup of water before you have a coffee.
Yep.
What I do is I take a bottle of water, slam a little bit, pour Liquid IV, slam that whole thing. I used to use emergencies. Now I use Liquid IV.
That's the way to go. A hydration multiplier contains 5 essential vitamins, like John said, and the company's donating 4 million servings in response to COVID-19 all over the world. Hospitals, first responders, food banks, veterans, active military. They've donated over 11 million servings globally. Grab your favorite Liquid IV flavors at Walmart, or you get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code HAM at checkout. That's off of anything you order. Better hydration today. Use the code HAM at liquidiv.com. Lee in the stream says 9-minute drives cover up for Jimmy and the DBs, not really sustainable.
Agreed.
It's their primary issue. It's not new news. It's not new news today. I mean, it is a roller coaster ride with Jimmy Garoppolo, and sometimes he makes plays and sometimes he throws picks. The 2 picks, just rolling through my memory here. He's had bad interceptions before, but these were, in terms of combining 2 of his worst, these were 2 of his worst in the same game. These weren't deflected passes. This wasn't a little too high off somebody's fingertips. They were both. The first one was baffling. I still don't know what happened on that first interception to Bobby Wagner, but they were bad. And then he also made some good throws, and he also missed some throws.
The run where he hit him right in the breadbasket,
like right on. It's like he let him. It was like Joe Montana.
He never hits an offensive player like that ever.
Bill Walsh was like, perfect, catchable ball. That's exactly how we draw it up, just like the teach tapes with Joe Montana. It was. This is what it is. It's what it is. And
he's thrown the linebacker pick several times in his career.
It was the Fred Warner practice pick, is what it was.
Luke Kuechly early on in his career.
That's the pick. Fred Warner had that pick like 9 times in camp.
I swear to God, Bobby Wagner's had that before, Tim. I mean, he's Eric Kendricks had one that was a little higher. The second pick to me is Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Like a deep breaking in route, in coverage that he absolutely airmails. Because maybe in his mind, I'm just going to put myself in Jimmy's mind. George covered. But if I put it up there, give him the opportunity to make a play, and then he throws it where George Kittle, who is one of the best athletes in the league, has, like, I don't think Kevin Garnett in his prime could get a finger on it. And then the DB that is 15 yards behind the 3 guys, I love it when he catches it, but like on his knees just to make sure, like, it's so easy. It's one of those ones in the outfield where Barry Bonds used to like no look it, but like any like outfielder that's very fundamentally sound, like Tommy Amansky style, catches it with the 2 hands. That's what the DB does. And listen, we'd have to go down and break back the safety. I don't know if the safety's on Kyle, Jimmy, or the offensive line. Maybe a combination of the 3, because I would imagine the coaching point is, Jimmy, under no circumstances can you hold this ball very long. You have to get rid of this fucking thing fast. But I'll give him maybe not a pass, but there's probably more than one responsible party on that bad boy, because he got attacked pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think the offensive lineman just didn't touch anybody, and it's
nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
You can't throw a pick. You can't ground it. You're in the end zone. But somebody said something we've talked about before. I'm going back to the comments. I can't find it. Jimmy can't throw outside that. Won't throw outside the hash past 10 yards. Matt, normally I'd agree. The throw to Ayuk on the last drive of the game was one of the greatest throws Jimmy's ever made, ever. But it stood out to both of us. We were watching it together, because he never, ever makes that throw. And it's just a classic big league NFL throw, right? And it never happens. And it stood out like a sore thumb because it never happens.
It's a pretty basic NFL throw, wouldn't you say? The deep out between that, whatever that, it's like cover 2, the corner's lower, the safety's higher, and you just have to put it in the spot.
Yeah, receiver just tap on his way out of bounds with it.
I mean, it's something you see with like Brady and Manning and those type guys. Like they run Rodgers, they just run that. You know why? Because that spot's open a lot of the time. Kyle probably doesn't even call it. So this gets back to defending Kyle. When your quarterback is just not a very good player, right? Relative to good NFL quarterbacks. When he's good, he's like average. And when he's bad, he's atrocious. And those picks today are like, that's bottom 5 level NFL quarterbacking, right? The 2 picks.
Awful. Yeah.
It just doesn't get any worse. And I think
it's quarterbacking at its worst. That's exactly right.
You said someone on the chat mentioned something like when you just can't run it all game long, you can't hide Jimmy.
Yeah.
And we had been talking about, right, like 20 attempts. I think the last couple games were like 20 and 24. And it's hard. It really is hard to keep it around that number every game because you're not going to just be able to run for 170, 190 yards. And today is a good example.
You're talking about pass attempts, right?
I'm talking pass attempts.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not a mathematician here or an analytical guru, but I do agree when they use the word sample size. Well, the larger and larger Jimmy G's sample size grows in an individual game of attempts, the more likely he's going to throw picks over the middle of the field.
A great analogy you just made me think of is like, the more days away from home I am, the more likely I am to just break down and have a hamburger and fries, right? When I'm out of my house, let's just say I'm in a hotel for one day. We're like a 50-50 shot. I'm eating a hamburger. I'm out of the shot. I'm like greasy, bad. 2 days. Like, now it's 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Like Jimmy, you just can't have the hamburger dangling out there for too many days in a row for him. He's got to be in his own kitchen with some readily accessible frozen veggies or something. I don't know. It's just too much. It's just too much. Maybe a better analogy would be ice cream in the freezer. I don't know, but I'm with you. It does feel like there's a big difference between 22 attempts and 30 attempts, right?
Well, it's especially when they're down, because when they're down, you do have to push the envelope a little bit. He becomes a different guy when they're down. He has to push the envelope. You do not trust him because there couldn't be a soul watching that game today that didn't want Seattle to win. That when the ball leaves the frame, so when it's flying far enough where the camera has to move, you're like, you are shell-shocked. When it's just like, oh, Ayuk catches it and moves, right? And it runs another 5 yards, like, oh my God, he just hit it. You are expecting defensive backs.
This right here. This is the scariest image that you can see.
By far the scariest.
For those of you not watching this, there's a football in the air, and it's not clear where it's going yet.
Nope. And it's going past the first down
line. When Russ does
so
it, it's like, oh, fuck, DK's going to be open by 10 yards, right?
Guy, when Russ does it, I think every time touchdown. Do you ever think it's going to be a touchdown, especially if the ball travels? It's
like, oh, this is going to be an underthrow, or this is going to be an overthrow. You never think that with Russ.
Jimmy's just...
And I think it's why they can't run the ball, right? Like, shocker. Seattle's not terrified of their ability to throw. A lot of the Kittle stuff happens around the line of scrimmage anyway, or in the flats. It's not like nobody is catching the ball 30 yards down the field. Now, Kittle goes off. He has an incredible game. Like you said earlier, 181 yards. How many of those plays happen 20 yards down the middle of the field?
No, he's breaking 17 tackles. I mean, he's just... I don't know, man. He just, at this point in time, like Jimmy is what he is. They are going to ride with him at the quarterback. That is also a reflection of Shanahan, of the operation. Like they did draft a quarterback number 3 overall. So it's like they clearly aren't developing him. They've given up on that. So they're all in with this guy who is, I no longer am going to be shocked when he throws these picks. Even though today it was a little shocking.
Though? Oh, there was?
Yeah, I mean, just because he had, I guess he kind of had. He had the one pick last week, but they've just been able to avoid it. They've been able to circumvent Jimmy Garoppolo, and today they just weren't.
Yeah,
and I just think as these games get tougher, like you're just not able to circumvent your quarterback against good teams. You might be able to do it when you play Atlanta. You might be able to do it when you play. I think they still play Houston, but you are not able to do it next week, probably against Cincinnati more than likely. You're not able to do it maybe the next... Like, you're not going to just be able to do it every single Rams game. I know they kind of have for like 5 Rams games. It feels eventually like, What happens when you're down 21-14 in the third quarter?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
This has to end.
The
Like
only
this, at least this is finite, right? This is
Right.
going to end.
Well, I mean, John, shy of them making a Super Bowl run. Don't you remember?
Yeah. You ain't making a Super Bowl run with old Jimmy G.
Let's be very clear. The only question with Jimmy Garoppolo left is, does he get cut or traded? But the question is not, can they get a second-round pick for him? Because everybody else has watched all the same stuff that all of us amateur GMs have watched, and none of us would trade a second-round pick. Not a single fan. It's like we always say, you can always tell how good a closer is based on how that team's fan base reacts when the closer comes in. When the gate opens and the guy comes in, it's like, oh, he's 38 of 42 save chances. But the fans are like, oh, God, oh, God. If your team traded a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo and you've been paying half attention, you'd know that was insane. The idea of them getting some value, that is so I could not be less interested in that conversation. Let me know when the season ends, okay, after Wild Card Weekend, and then we can talk about it. Kidding, kind of. I don't know. Then we can talk about it. But until then, there's no reevaluation. I've said it many times. This is what it is. Sometimes the ball gets caught. Sometimes it gets deflected. Some games there's a DB there, and some games there isn't. But that ball, that second pick, gets thrown every game, whether he throws a pick or not. It's there to be had. It's just, is someone going to grab it or not? It's the same. Every game, it's the same. The only question is, does he play quarterback throwing the football with a complementary run game or not? Today he didn't, and so there you go. They couldn't put together. Actually, how many plays was that last drive? Like 9 or 10?
Play-by-play, it was 12.
Yeah, well, good for them. I thought that was actually a pretty impressive drive. It was. They hit some big throws, the Ayuk throw, the Kittle, but it's just
he can have drives and look like a top 15 quarterback when the game, but the totality of the game. Because I was going to say, when you were just talking very eloquently about Jimmy, that just until you get to his last two numbers, 20 of 30 for 300 yards, 10 yards an attempt, and 2 touchdowns. If I just stop right there, you'd be like, pretty good NFL game on the road, Seattle. Then he goes 2 picks, both of them. Not all picks are equal, right? Russ threw a pick today. That interception was not on Russell. Do we agree there? Like, Russell's 1 pick and Jimmy's comparing his pick to Jimmy's. And then his 1 sack was a safety. So he throws 2 picks and he gets a safety. It's just a disaster.
The crazy
Jimmy's problem, guy, is like, because people are like, remember when you used to say Jimmy was better than Derek? Because 2 years ago he was playing better than Derek. Now the one thing, like watching Derek play today, Jimmy makes these disastrous plays. And they talking about it a lot with, like, I think coaches, I think Mario's a good example. If you really got, like, ask Mario and you ask Joe Moorhead, who both might be on the go. I guess Moorhead's
gone. Yeah.
Like, why don't you play the rookie over this quarterback? We just don't trust him. We don't trust him. And you talk to NFL quarterbacks or NFL coaches and play callers, why they don't play like the younger guy over the veteran player like a Jimmy. We just don't trust him. We don't trust him. Well, it's like Jimmy is 30 years old and he's playing like everything those guys think about their 19-year-old freshman quarterback or 22-year-old rookie quarterback. He does that. He does Zach Wilson level disastrous shit, but he still does a lot of the good stuff that they can't maybe do over like a lot of times. But his disastrous pitch, he's always going to like hang the slider against the number 4 hitter who's an all-star and voted 3rd in the MVP the last 5 years. And that guy's going to hit it out of the park every single time.
Yeah, or swing and miss. Sometimes he swings and misses, right? Some of those games, sometimes the guy swings and misses. It's like, oh my God, he's hitting himself in the head on the way back to the dugout because he just missed a pitch.
He's trying to throw you the ball, though. He's trying.
Yeah, it's very much like what I said about Kirk before the Niner game. It's like Kirk is not a guy that goes through a season with 2 picks. He's just not. So are you going to catch it or not? Because it's going to be there. It's going to be there.
The difference is, I was going to say, I guess Jimmy doesn't move around anymore. So I was going to say, because Cousins is a bad athlete, again, relative to NFL quarterbacks. Like, if Lamar's a 10, Cousins like a 3. I used to think Jimmy was like a 6, 6.5. He plays now much more like a true pocket quarterback. Like, he ain't moving at all. Beside the occasional like boot, but he ain't running away from anybody. So he doesn't. One thing that I thought he did 2 years ago when he had his good season, he was a much better ad-lib quarterback than he is now. He doesn't bring much play. Like, one knock that like scouts will tell you about Cousins, and this is why his stats like throughout a given year can look pretty good, but if you really watched it in totality, like if you ask any Vikings fan, obviously they lost the Lions today, but they would just be like, he's so underwhelming for a guy that's like stats are actually look pretty good. Because part of that is like when the play breaks down, and this is why I feel pretty good betting on Josh Allen over Mac Jones in this game on Monday Night Football. Can you do something out of the realm of the play call, right? Sometimes, and this is why I think ultimately they went and we pounded the table for Fields or Trey Lance, because you need a guy. That's what was kind of killing it in the league right now. And you even saw Minshew a couple times today, like made some plays just outside of the pocket, like not even outside of the pocket, but just outside of 1, 2, 3. Then you kind of got to do a 360 and move. Jimmy doesn't bring any of the ad-lib shit anymore. And then his just in the pocket stuff is just like Cousins. I guess Cousins in the pocket untouched is less likely to do some of the Jimmy stuff. Cousins is when he does have to move, then he's completely fucked. Jimmy's just like in the pocket, like just pretty normal pocket. Lets it rip. He hit the defender in stride? How did he do that? He can't hit offensive players in stride. So it's like the play that Ayuk, the ball that got overturned, right? That they called it. That's a really hard play that shouldn't be that hard. How many Ayuk plays now I get he ain't Calvin Johnson, right? He's 5'11-ish.
Same on like the use check play, right? Air. The use check play was a wide open. They nailed the play call. The play worked. They executed it. Juice is not an elevation sensation. He made some other great plays in the game.
But he's 6'2". Like, you don't have to.
I know that one. But it's somebody made the point to your baseball analogy. It's like he just throws the fastball down the middle against a power hitter. Sometimes the guy swings and misses. Sometimes he hits it out. And we know what we're getting at this point. And to me, what's crazy though, guys, like the use check one, where you're a little high. Why don't you do, like the Derek? When Derek's a little off, he'll throw the lobber. So even the guy has to stop, and it'll be like, instead of getting like a 30 yards, you may only end up with 18, but the fucking chains move. Jimmy just has one speed. It's like, Jimmy, just make him catch it at his knees. Even if Juszczyk falls, 16 yards, completion first down. Instead, Juszczyk, they're like, hey, bro, jump like Gary Payton II. And think how hard it is as a fullback. You're full stride, 18 yards down the field. You're turning, the ball's way high. We love the guy. It's a hard play for him. It is. How about the catch he did have though late? Juszczyk behind him, like spinning away from a big hit. It was
But that's what I'm saying. Catch. If you throw it below Kyle's waist, he'll make the play. I don't think he's used to jumping. But that's asking him a lot. They're asking Ayuk to do a lot.
No, I know. I guess my point is like there's a lot at play when you draw that play up. You realize it kind of maybe has to be more perfect than if you're throwing that ball to. But again, they don't have Justin Jefferson, right?
No,
they don't have. But whatever. That's not the problem. The reality is you could put Justin Jefferson on this team and we'd be having the same conversations. That's the reality. That's my point. It's like we start talking about trade value. It's like this is what it is. And so hey fellas, here's what we can't do today. We can't give up a special team score. We can't give up a special teams turnover. We can't commit 10 penalties. That's just not our recipe. It's just not our recipe. It's just not. They don't have a big margin for error because they have a hard time making up for mistakes. Because their thing is let's run the ball, which is great. I'm all for it. You're all for it, like you said.
Yeah.
But the more you throw, the more likely something bad is going to happen.
Period. Well, it's like Michigan will not win the championship if they can't run the ball. That's a fact, right? The only way they're going to be able to win 2 games in the playoffs is they're going to have to run it against Georgia, which is going to be very difficult. Alabama didn't. They threw it. And then they're going to have to run it against Alabama. And obviously that's the highest level. And they're much better relative to their opponents. It's hard for the Niners because it's clear. Like, Seattle's played them so much, but like, what do you have to do? What's the Niners' go-to plays to start a game? They're going to run toss left and toss right, and they're going to toss it more to the corners. They're going to try to run the edges with their tackles, their fullback, and their tight end. That's their favorite fucking play. And when that thing starts getting working, you're in trouble because then he can work the boots and the stuff. But if you can stop that, you just get 2nd and 9, 3rd and 10. You just have to run. Like Kyle can only, and this is where I will defend him, you can only run so many like leak out plays to Kittle and Juszczyk. Like you can't do that 25 times a game. You can do that 5 or 6, and luckily they hit them all today. But eventually you just have to run some basic pass routes to your wide receivers, and it's hard to trust Jimmy because you don't trust him outside the hashes, and inside the hashes you're holding on for your ass because here's what we can't be shocked anymore, right? We have a large body of evidence. I guess he missed 1 game, so 10 and a half games. He missed a half too. So there's played 12 games. He's played 10 and a half of them. His high balls are a thing. They are not only not going away, it's really part of his repertoire. So, and I think this is what you've been saying about Kyle. He almost like calls plays to avoid those, but it's hard. You can't just be like, well, we'll never throw over the middle of the field on 2nd and 3rd and long. Like you do kind of need to do that. Besides this, the occasional like dump down to the running back.
Right.
Jimmy makes it very, very difficult on the offensive play caller. Like Kyle can do poor things, like have a bad individual call, let Hightower be a disaster, but also like it's easy to get mad at him for things that like, no, that's like fucking Bill Walsh could be calling these plays. He'd want to wring Jimmy's neck.
Yeah, and that's where we can have a legitimate conversation that we've had before. We don't need to rehash now about, evaluating Tom Brady and the, draft several years ago and whatever. But that stuff's over and done with. It's now about this year, A, B, Trey Lance in the future, period.
But I also think like it's a fair argument or a fair criticism or a fair just question for just if you're just a diehard Niner fan on the couch, you and me sitting there like I understand, Kyle, you said all these things about Trey, but you just see him at practice and be like, scout team or only. It's just me and you over here, Jimmy. Just me and you, Jimmy. The Titanic, which is our team, we're either going to make it to land or we're going to sink. Just me and you. I'm calling the plays. You're throwing it. Is that just? That's where I understand people calling him like Chip Shanahan, very stubborn. Like because that's clearly the mode he's in, which to me seems a little crazy after like a game like this. How do you just think like that after watching that? It's like, Kyle, I can't be shocked next week when he throws it to some Bengal defender when you're tied 14-14 and Josh Norman's getting smoked by Jamar Chase and you like, it feels like, God, it's going to be a tight game. Jimmy airmails it. Dude picks him off, goes 30 the other way, and Kyle's screaming at him on the road in Cincy. Like, get ready for it. That's where I do think the criticism of, like, you're either coaching or allowing it to happen. Like, they're all in. And it's, previous years they have had no other options. They did just draft a guy 3rd overall. Are you not trying it all? Seems kind of crazy. There's just a lot of like, not everyone's on the same page. They're not built for adversity right now.
And yet, I mean, they get a break. They get a break this year with the NFC. That's the crazy part with all of this is after the loss to Seattle, and you mentioned it earlier, and you're right. I mean, if they had won the game, they are in like very, very strong playoff position. Because if they win the game, they're 7-5. And a game ahead of Washington still for that 6th spot. Now they're 6-6. Washington 6-6. So as of the moment, the Niners are still in playoff position. They're the 7th seed at this moment in time. Philly is 6-7 behind a dramatic Minshew blowout victory today. Minnesota is 5-7. They helped out, even though you had the head-to-head with them anyway. They lost to the Lions. Carolina on a bye is 5-7 and a mess. Atlanta got blown out at 5-7. New Orleans is 5-7. And so, again, who are you fighting for? You're fighting with Washington. You're fighting with Philly. Are you fighting with Minnesota? Because you're effectively 2 games ahead of them, even though it's 1 in the loss column because you beat them. So you're still actually in okay shape. Now, the problem is we can't really trust you to win
any game.
Week. Yeah, any game. Exactly. Better way to put it. But despite all of that, they're in okay shape for the playoffs. They're luck. I mean, it feels like they get nothing but bad luck. Don't let anybody tell you the Niners only get bad luck and everything goes against them, because they don't look like a 7 seed right now, and yet they are.
So they have 1, 2, I guess because they have the Thursday night game. They have 5 games remaining. Are they more likely to go 2-3 or 3-2 in those 5 games? Just without, we know the opponent's Thursday night game, but like just when you say a 5-game stretch, do you feel 3-2 or 2-3 more likely?
3-2 is my first inclination because they're just in all these games enough that, 2 of them are against teams that I know they're better than, Atlanta and Houston. And then that means win one of the other 3. So that's my first That's my gut reaction. You?
I would just say it's a coin flip. It wouldn't shock me if they went 3-2, but by no means if they went 2-3, it would shock me either, right? Because we know the majority of these games are going to be a shit show. Most of the games they played in, even when they were losing, were tight. And clearly back to just the button-down operation, their special teams, their margin for error is just naturally small. They're not as good. They have some injuries. 9-8, you're in the playoffs. 8-9, you still might be in the playoffs, but you could miss too. So, like, they still should make the playoffs, but I'm not confident. And if they won this game, they just would have easily got in because they could have gone 2-3, and they would have got to 9-8, and they would have been in.
Yeah. If they miss the playoffs, then they'll have other moments that we can point to and blame them for, but this one should not be forgotten. A Seattle team that was 3-8, that you had the lead on, and
a sizable lead, sizable lead with the ball.
Played and your sloppiness contributed to their score before the half. Your sloppiness contributed to their score after the half. Just didn't play like a playoff team.
I would say one area they're probably lucky is they have the tiebreaker right with Philly. Washington, just the way their schedule breaks up, they're not going to sweep Philly and Dallas, right? So even if they split those two games,
their other game is New York Giants,
who are a tough bad team just because they keep it low scoring, right? They play some defense, but let's even give football team the win there.
Mike Glennon today.
Do you think the football team, if you had just look at their schedule, 2 Eagles, 2 Dallas,
split
Giants,
3-2,
so they're getting to 9-8?
Don't you think? Because what's their week? The Giants is their. See, it would help them if like Dallas was their weeks. Although Dallas might have to win at the end of the year. If their week 18 game was Dallas, their week 18 game is the Giants. I think
the Niners could get lucky that the Rams could have the 5 seed wrapped up going into that final game and really throw it. Because we know McVay will, right? If he knows he's playing Dallas.
Yeah, well, Stafford might need the rest at this point. He got hurt, banged up.
To me, that's got written. Will people freak out? Like if the Eagles need the Niners to lose?
Washington's at the Giants. Eagles have a bye this week, then play football team, the Giants, at the football team. Then they finish with Dallas.
So all those teams play each other, right?
Yeah. Yep. Minnesota is Pittsburgh at Chicago, Rams at Green Bay, Chicago. But like you said, you got tiebreakers.
Today was a killer loss for Minnesota. Today was
awful.
Today was devastating to the old Minnesota Vikings. You see Dan Campbell go for it late in the game at his own 30.
He got it.
No, he didn't.
Drive he got it on, or he didn't get it.
No, he
didn't
see.
See.
They ran a play action. Jared Goff got destroyed. Then I don't even know. I can't even remember what happened, but maybe Minnesota missed a field goal. Maybe they kicked a field goal, and then he drove the length of the field. 1:40 left. He was trying to win. I mean, I'm not nitpicking Dan Campbell. None of his games. Who gives a shit?
Good for him.
But
I watched their game-winning touchdown 7 times in a row. So happy for them.
Here's what I do know. Well, even after this loss, this would be a hard one this year to shake if Kyle Shanahan misses the playoffs. Because you lived in the short term and you still failed. Mm-hmm. That to me is it'd be a hard, he would lose some equity with people. And he's ebbed and flowed this season. That's naturally when you're struggling. But you got to make the playoffs this year, man. You have to. Especially when it's who are you battling? The football team and Minshew and Hurts. That's your main competition now.
Yeah, and you've had injuries, sure. But again, look at who we're talking about here. We're not talking about competing with Tampa Bay and Green Bay at this point. In Arizona for the 1 seed, that thing's long gone. Winning the division. We're not talking about winning the division. The bar has been lowered this year. It's a lower bar that I think he's being asked to hurdle. That's it.
Think about this guy. More than likely.
And part of it too, but by the way, sorry, and part of it too, if you miss the playoffs, we'd say you misjudged your team. You thought this team was good enough to make the playoffs. That's why you stuck with Garoppolo. Fine. That's what I am for, chasing the playoffs to not develop your quarterback, even though your quarterback means he hasn't played in 2 years. Fine. I get that. I'm good with it. I support it as of this moment in time. But you got to make the playoffs then. And we'd be talking about missing the playoffs. We'd be sitting there, John, if the Niners missed the playoffs, on Wild Card Weekend watching what? The Eagles, Packers, and the football team Bucks playing? Going, you didn't miss the playoffs in a year when everybody won 10 games. Like the year remember the Patriots missed the playoffs with Castle, even though they won 10 games, 11 games. Yeah. Okay, fine. Like that's not what we're talking about this year. So
even last year, remember the Dolphins missed it. They won 10-6, and it took 11 to get in the AFC. Like that, you went 10-6. Like I can't talk too much shit about your season. That's pretty good.
This one's a double-edged sword. Yeah. What benefits you is the NFC is down, but it's also going to cut you deeper if you miss the playoffs in this NFC. Sorry, keep that. I wanted to finish that point.
He's 1-4 this year in the division. I mean, he got swept by Kingsbury and Pete. That hurts.
It does hurt.
That's bad. Like you're not going to finish like the last place team in your division beat you twice. To me, just losing those, and even if let's say the Rams, it's hard to tell because that game they might just mail it in, so you might get lucky to go 2-4. And obviously, if they just play the Rams, they match up well against them. But holy shit, Pete and Cliff swept you.
And it's one thing if it's just an all-time career year for Cliff and they go whatever 13 and at this point even 13-4 seems.
But he's been playing them well, you know.
Yeah, my point is if Pete's gonna go, what is their record gonna be? Like people are gonna get fired or traded or something. Seattle's just
Seattle doesn't win this game against like the Jets, right? they would have lost this.
No. So
it's just yeah.
They're not dead, but Kyle's part of the question is like, can Kyle? Here's what I know: they play like that, they're not a playoff team. If they throw 2 interceptions and commit 10 penalties, they're not making and a special teams fumble and a special teams touchdown. They are not making the playoffs. They're not. So can they fix it this week? Can they fix it next week?
And also, you play the Bucs or the Packers, and Jimmy's playing like you lose 40-12.
Yeah, I mean, if you play that game, yeah. But Jimmy's just as liable to beat the Packers.
No, I'm talking in the playoffs.
If you play that game, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you play that game, yeah. But I also think you get into the playoffs against the Packers, you can win that game.
What about Bucs?
Harder.
You can't run it against them.
No, and it'll be an all-time Brady game.
Against the Niners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brady might actually give up home field advantage to play that game in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
But like, you know what? Yeah, I want to play that game there.
Yeah. Oh, you remember when you told me no for that guy that I, pretended to like, and I do kind of like personally if we're just having cocktails, but I don't like when he's on my team and sniffing down my neck because he shouldn't be sniffing down my neck. I'm a way better player.
My childhood team, I wanted to come back and play at home.
Now it's weird. Jimmy was better when he was around Brady than he is now. He's getting worse.
What's the way it
That's
is?
the thing. It's not really arguable. Jimmy is getting worse. Like the more he has to play, again, when I say more, the more he has to throw. If the more you have to throw
that's
in
not
a game,
new. I don't think
that's pretty
new.
telling.
Yeah, but I don't think that's new. I think that is the situation. That's just him.
So the people that went after the people defending the playoff game where he threw it 8 times, they were right. Even though in that individual instance, of course you're just going to run it, but it was clear that, Jimmy's best game is when he throws it 8 times.
That combined with what happened at the end of the half against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan has told us what he thinks in those spots. We know 2 things in those situations. We know Kyle really values what happens at the end of the half in terms of scoring late and then getting the ball to start the second half, that kind of thing. He values that a lot. And yet when given the chance to take advantage of it, sometimes he doesn't do it because he doesn't fully trust his quarterback to not let the other team score.
Well, unless he's just remarkable early on, I doubt he's just going to feel great with Trey Lance right away doing that, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we give a quarterback at that age and this level of experience time. The question is
but this is what I'm saying. There's going to be people aren't going to want to lose next year.
I know
the heat is just going to. And this is part of being an NFL head coach. The heat's high, right? Division I, Power 5 football, heat's high on all these guys. In the SEC, the Big Ten, hell, the fucking Pac-12. The heat is really high in the NFL. I mean, it just is.
You know what, John? That's a great point. Because you missed the playoffs this year. Are they going to look like a Super Bowl contender next year?
Super Bowl contender?
Right. Are they going to be a playoff team, obviously, all year long?
Playoffs?
They have trouble in all three phases. Well, I know this. Rookie quarterbacks, part of the reason I thought Trey Lance would be in good hands with the 49ers is because I thought they'll be solid on defense. Frankly, I'm kind of like Kyle. Didn't even think about special teams in the offseason. Didn't even consider that it would be a net negative. And you got playmakers around. You'll make a few plays, and you'll run the rock, and you'll be good. Well, again, that's what this team is supposed to be. This 49ers team is basically supposed to be a team that is built in the same way that you build a team around a young quarterback. Just have them make a few plays, run the ball, play defense, don't do anything stupid, win football games. That's the way this 49ers team without a young quarterback is built to play. And they're 500. Are they going to be 500 with a rookie quarterback trying to play this way? I don't know. That would feel like a win at this point, though. If I told you right now, Trey Lance starts 17 games next year, on December 5th of next year, the Niners are a 500 team and are the 7th seed in the playoffs. Would you take that right now?
Yeah. I would say the difference, though, is like the team, you get rid of Jimmy, you have so much more money, the salary cap goes up. Like, you do have a lot of ammo.
Good point.
You got $25 million of Jimmy, then you got $20 million of the cap increasing. Or actually, I saw someone tweeted out the last couple of days, like 180 to potentially like 210. So, I mean, you could gain $50 million pretty easily for a team that's been, I would say, a little up against it the last couple of years, right? In terms of like, so it's just the way the NFL works, turnover. You could just, I mean, they've played this season. One thing I think we'll look back, like Josh Norman was our starting corner the whole season. Pretty nuts. It'd be one thing. It's like, well, he makes some plays. Well, yeah, he punches the ball out, but when he's a cornerback. So when you have to cover wide receivers, which is his main job, not causing fumbles, he gets destroyed.
You prefer?
I don't blame him. He can't cover the comeback route. He can't cover the go route. He cannot cover. Like, it's not his fault. It is not Josh Norman's fault he can't cover. The evidence is in. It is the 49ers coaching staff, which their head coach is the boss of the entire organization, who keeps giving the go-ahead to throw him out there. Today, when Lenore got the pass interference, good. Let him play. Let's just see this kid play. Josh Norman, the same thing's happening. If the ball's caught in front of him, when they show the replay, he gets spun around like a dreidel. When he's beat deep, he's 5 feet behind the guy. And I still can't believe that he pointed at the crowd or the cameraman after Russell Wilson missed him and DK was wide open. Like, bro, that bothers me. That bothers me.
I almost tweeted it, but I'm like, I'm tired I'm always banging on corners for celebrating all the time. But that was one of the worst ones I've ever seen.
It's like, bro, if Russell had a normal throw, DK, I mean, that's the easiest touchdown they've had all season. Josh, you were at the 5-yard line. He was 3 feet into the end. He was over the pylon. What are you celebrating? How John, are you with a straight conscious celebrating?
Pinned him on the sideline, John. Pinned him on the sideline. It's all about riding him, knocking him off his path, pinning him up against the sideline, and leaving Russell nowhere to throw the football. I mean, if you can't see that, then I don't know how to. I don't know. That's cornerback 101, John.
I can't do it. I can't. Make it stop.
Before we go any further, John, let's tell the people about Decked. Decked.com/ham. Decked.com/ham. Protect all the goods in the bed of your truck with Decked.com/ham.
Yep, guy, the deck drawer system keeps your gear secure. If your tailgate is locked, you can't open the drawers. Each deck's 2 full bed-length drawers can carry up to 200 pounds of whatever you got. The drawers roll out waist high, giving you easy access to organize your tools and gear. Also, guy, 2,000-pound payload. You drop a four-wheeler up on that bad boy, no big deal. Carries it. Haberman, Middlekauff, and 7 offensive linemen, 7 Trent Williams. Good to go, rocking and rolling.
We could use
Deck
7
is 100% made in the USA, backed by a lifetime no-hassle warranty with a second-to-none customer service team ready to answer all your questions.
Yeah, Decked is the goods, man. Decked is the goods. And you can also, still plenty of time to retrofit that bad boy, dump some ice in it, put a few beers in, and tailgate or whatever else you're going to do. The drawers lock for that added security and peace of mind. Like John said, 100% made in the USA. So get the Decked drawer system for your truck, especially this time of year. Protects your stuff like so many others do with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.89 rating. Decked drawer system at deck.com/ham. Get you free shipping. That's decked.com/ham for free shipping. Decked.com/ham. Go to the website right now. Check it out. Check out the new deck toolbox as well at decked.com/ham.
Woo.
Yeah.
Woo.
Steven on the stream, the refs were fucking us. You can't beat yourself too, and they did. Yeah, I mean, again, hold on third down. Bad non-call, but
there are atrocious plays called all day long. I mean, we know the evidence is in. The NFL refereeing is piss poor. The league does not care, and you just have to be, if you're gambling on a game, if you're a fan of a team, you just have to go in and be like, the refs might screw me today, and be
which is the same thing you've always had to think in the history of time, by the way.
But it's truly now we have much more access to angles, and
we do have more access to angles.
Lot more money on the line right now. Gambling is legal. The league, people making more than ever. You get hired, but no one ever gets fired as a referee. But I refuse to get too mad about the referees because I honestly didn't even. I can't blame the referees today. I didn't really see much egregiousness. Beside, they could have called the
third
PI.
down play. Yeah,
they could have called it.
Yeah.
They were also, I mean, he's throwing to Trent Sherfield in the biggest spot of the game.
That's right.
Now, Debo's injured, so it's like they're down wide receivers, right?
I don't know if there's anything. We could probably come up with a list of things a more anticlimactic, but a batted down pass on fourth down is about as anticlimactic as it gets. Like, at least let that ball get to the end zone or score it, and then would we get a 2-point? Would we not? Would we still be in overtime? None of that. We got tagged in this today, John. Is it time to start thinking about the future for the Raiders? Dabo Swinney on the sideline with Richard Petty. What was going on? What help me out. Why was he there for a home game?
I do think Bishop Gorman has one of the top recruits in the country this year. Maybe a couple of them.
Recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, Bishop Gorman is right in Las Vegas. I think Vegas just the last couple decades has been producing some dudes. So I would guess he's there recruiting, and then he has several players on the team, right? Mullins, Cleveland.
Third down, automatic, Mr. Automatic, third down.
Who's that? Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the best. He's there to see Renfro. I mean, it's a big deal, I think. As a guy in the SEC that does the South for an NFL team told me, he's like, listen, the two best programs, I guess Georgia's now one of them too, but we're Bama and Clemson, right? For like, obviously Bama all decade, and then Clemson got involved. One was a factory, one was a family, and he's like, Dabo's big on family, and it's not fake. Like, yeah, I think he's really close to these guys, right? I mean, Farrell was like a team captain on a championship team. Yeah. Renfro caught a game-winning touchdown. How much money did those guys help Dabo make, like, for his family? I mean, seriously. I do think Dabo truly does care. Like, Nick, was it Nick? He said on the Peyton Manning that he just gets a printout because he doesn't even watch the NFL. They just give him a printout on Mondays, how all of his guys did.
Yeah. Now look, I mean, I'm making something out of this photo. We can talk about the Raiders who just also can't take advantage of opportunity. They're now 6-6 in a conference that's much more punitive to be 6-6 in the AFC than it is in the AFC. But I don't think Dabo is out of the realm. I don't think it's insane. To me, Mayock, if I'm Mayock, this is actually a way to keep my job, is to bring Dabo in. Tell Mark, let's bring Dabo in. I don't know what Dabo's feeling right now. But now maybe Dabo, you never know all these little, all the little dynamics behind the scenes. As we record this, the report is that Miami's hiring its football coach, Mario Cristobal, and then we'll hire probably Dan Radakovich, who's the athletics director at Clemson. I don't know if that's good or bad for Dabo. I don't know what their relationship is, privately like. But you don't think Mayock would want to hire Dabo Swinney as his Raiders head football coach?
No, I just don't think Dabo's made for the NFL.
Oh, okay.
I think Dabo.
Remember, Dabo said a couple years ago, once we start paying players in college, I'm out.
I mean, not to tell on him, but I think they've been paying players well before Dabo ever showed up down there at Clemson. So, and I don't think they've stopped since. Now, maybe he means legally, but come on, give me a break. That's like when Jay Bill has complained all these years. Like, Coach K is paying them. Like, the Duke has the highest payroll, him and Calipari. I just don't think he's not. Now, he did just lose his defensive coordinator. Venables went to Oklahoma. He still has Tony Elliott as offensive coordinator. I saw that Pete Thamel said that if Radakovich, is that how you say his name?
I think.
Yeah, so that guy's leaves. They've had like some star up and coming, like number 2, that just would replace him, that stayed at Clemson, like kind of spurned other jobs. But when you become Dabo or Saban or Kirby, you are bigger than the athletic department. Like, to me, that move is more like a guy like, what's going to happen to PJ Fleck? Or, I'm just, a solid middle coach, not like you're Bob Stoops, right? You're Kirby Smart, you're Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, no, what I meant was just, are him and that AD really tight?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I just
not
don't,
so much that someone's going to come in and tell him what to do.
Dabo's big on religion and family, which to me feels very Southern college football. I don't know if that works in the pros. Historically, it has not.
Yeah. No, it's
again, I'm not saying like if they were interviewing Dabo, they would get credit like they should, but I don't love, to me, like Doug Peterson makes
You're saying you don't love the
more
fit
sense
for the Raiders, or you don't, what is it more, that you don't like the fit for them, or you don't think Dabo would take it? Or both?
I'm just saying, even if he would, I think there are other candidates that I would.
You
be
wouldn't
more
hire
interested.
him if
Like
you
if I told you Doug Peterson would take the job, and if you notice, he's clearly doing some media rounds. Like they're telling him, hey, just get back in the vernacular.
Let Mark Davis read your name on Twitter.
If I said Doug Peterson and Dabo Swinney would both accept their job, who should they offer? What would you say?
I'd say Doug Peterson, but I don't want to be. Yeah, I'd say Doug Peterson, but I don't think Dabo's run a really good operation, and I don't think he'd be a crazy hire. Even though most times I'm not overly fond of college coaches. Some depending, like guys that feel like college coaches, and you're right, he feels like a college coach.
There were a lot of rumors that he was going to go to Oklahoma.
Which it turns out is Brett Venables, as we record this, is the report now. Will be the Oklahoma coach, his DC.
Did you see someone asked him, like, you talked to Oklahoma? He said, yeah, but not about me.
What a great answer. Because every coach says the same thing. I haven't talked to anybody. It's like, yeah, we know you haven't talked to anybody.
I'm not saying either that, like, if it's just announced, Mayock's got extended, he hired Dabo Swinney. Like, that would be a big deal. It'd be one of the biggest, I would say, college coaches to the pros ever. It'd be a seismic moment in football. So it's not crazy. I'm just saying, if you take the emotion out of it and you just look at it from a pure football, it's very, very risky the way he's done things. And to I'm just using a guy's name who's won a Super Bowl, who's just been a lifetime pro guy, and maybe there's more of them. I'd have to think about it. Even Brian Daboll, whoever, that would just be safer, right? The Shanahans and McVays. I just tend to think pro's pro, college is college. And like Dabo's thing is he's a great recruiter. He's a great position. Guy, Venables was the number 1 defensive coordinator in the country for like a decade, right? And Tony Elliott's been crushing it as an offensive coordinator. Dabo doesn't call either side of the ball.
Right, but I would argue that the Raiders don't need necessarily somebody to call either side of the ball. They need somebody to tighten up that ship, which Doug could do too, I think. Right, but in terms of an organizational mind, I think Dabo has a lot of really good qualities.
I would say that the Raiders...
It would surprise me.
The Raiders are probably in some trouble, just given that it probably takes 10-8, 10-7 doesn't even guarantee you.
What a can I even be mad at them with an interim head coach? I'm not sure that I can be.
Especially the Ruggs thing. I don't think they are.
Yeah, but I remember I said the way they played Thanksgiving, Dallas. You hate to roll this out, but they have an interim head coach, so whatever.
It does feel like they're going to blow everything up.
Who's Mark leaning? Mark's who's helping him make this hire?
We'll come out with the Jason Lock and 4 article February 1st after they've assembled the staff.
If I'm Mayock, I try to get somebody in there who I know would. If Mayock wants to stay, I mean, maybe Mayock has another job lined
up. If he wants to, I'm sure he wants to stay. Do you think he's going to get kept?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's in Mayock's best interest to hire. I think he's got to try and get somebody in there who would keep him around. That's what I'm saying. That's where Dabo to me would probably make some sense.
Yeah, Dabo would make a lot of sense.
He'd be the first GM to hire a coach that he doesn't have control over. Like, hey, Dabo, I'd love for you to come in and take player personnel control back from me.
Yeah.
We know, I mean, maybe it would be what Mark has done in the past when given the chance to hire John Gruden. He goes to people he knows. He knows Jim Harbaugh. And unlike in college, you know, you don't have to wait. You don't have to hire somebody before the early signing period if you're the Raiders.
No, it's actually the timing's perfect, and he could be in the national championship game in January 9th. They have a game now, that 17th week. They play that week, right? They play the Sunday. I think the national championship's on the 10th. So you're not even in a big rush. Like, it's no. Do you think Harbaugh could leave if he loses the first playoff, if he loses to Georgia by 20? Or do you think you at least had to win a playoff game? Like, did he accomplish what he set out to accomplish? Did he accomplish it?
Yes.
Obviously not
I don't know what
totally,
he set out to accomplish, but I would say, yeah, he has returned Michigan to relevance. He's got them in the playoff, which I didn't even think he had to. He just had to, like, beat Ohio State every few years. I didn't even think he had to be in the playoffs to actually deliver what he came there to do, which was just get Michigan great again. So, no, I don't expect him to go, but, I mean, they did basically make him a fireable coach last year at Michigan. Now, maybe he was cool with it, and he just understood that was the circumstances. COVID year, plus they weren't performing. They weren't gonna fire him, but they turned his whole contract into bonus.
Like,
no. But I'm just saying, like, does he hold a grudge against Michigan for what they did to him contractually after the 2020 season?
I do think he was the highest paid coach in the country for like 5 years.
Yeah, and then
they
they
like $9 million.
Then they came to him and said, like, hey, we want to give you a contract. We want to change your contract so we can basically fire you. And he was like, cool, this is better than getting fired. I'll keep the job. Let's turn everything into bonuses, which he earned, and then gave a lot of it back. I don't know. I just think Jim's just different.
Does he have a little? Yeah, he's a little pettiness in him.
I don't know. Yeah, that's my question with Jim.
He answered the bell.
He answered the fucking bell.
And then he gave away all the money that they turned into incentives to the people.
He did. Really impressive.
And I can't imagine that all that money, like, a lot of those people are making like 60, 70 grand. Like, what are they going to
do? Yeah, he didn't give it to the athletics director. He gave it to people who could use it.
To the individuals. Yeah, they got really screwed. Pretty high level deal because he's hit every bonus, guy. I mean, he beat Ohio State. He won the Big Ten. He's made a playoff game. He gets to the national championship. He'll have made, I mean, I think $2.5 million in bonus. I think he can make up to like $3.2 million in bonuses. I kind of like him as a 7.5 point underdog in this game. How about you?
Against Georgia?
Yeah. I got to reevaluate UGA. Their quarterback guy stinks.
Which is not new information, right?
But you get to play Kentucky, Tennessee, and Florida. It's a little bit easier. You know, this guy in that game, as it went on, he was just playing.
Oh, my God.
I think he can win that game.
Would that be one of the – I mean, oh, fuck, please, God. I mean,
well, do you think is Saban a lock to beat Cincinnati? It'd be one of the biggest upsets in since what's his name Valvano was jumping up and down. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, would it be one of the biggest upsets in the history of sports if Cincinnati beat Alabama?
I think so. I mean, just
you see a line on that game?
Yeah, I think it's like 13.5.
I would have guessed 18.
It might be more.
Well, because Jim was 7.5. Cincinnati's good. Even though they were only up 14-13 at,
on Houston.
Halftime of Houston.
I know.
Who's pretty good too.
Yeah.
NCAA football. College football odds. National championship odds. We got some MyBookie, some decent bets up here.
What you got?
You can get the Wolverines to win the Natty 6-1. Alabama to win the Natty is -102, so basically you got to bet $102 to win 100. The Bulldogs are +115, so you bet $115 you win 100. Bearcats, I mean, it would be one of the greatest. They're basically 15-1, but I think the Wolverines 6-1, like they're a real team, right? They have multiple NFL
at their best
linemen who dominate.
At their best and Alabama's best, I don't like Alabama's Alabama, but.
Well, their coach is better and their quarterback's better.
Alabama's quarterback is probably what sets them apart from the other teams in this thing.
And their coach, right? Like,
Did you mention? And their coach. Did you mention the Fresno State UTEP line?
No, I didn't see that.
The who does not want to be here game.
Why do
Easy drive for UTEP.
Is it just because like the Mountain West doesn't get that many sweet bowl bids? Is that
Your
where they would
margin-
have played if Hayner and their coach would have stayed, or no?
That's a good question. It doesn't feel
Feels like
like it.
Barstool might have taken them against McElwain because they took Boise.
Yeah. Arizona game.
Yeah, McElwain versus Boise with Big Cat and Portnoy calling it.
Are they?
Yeah, you just can't take Fresno when their coach and their quarterback leave.
Which is not as cool of a story. McElwain, though, is going to be great in that meeting. Are those two calling that game?
Yeah, I mean Portnoy and Big Cat.
Where's it airing?
I think on the internet.
On they're streaming it, so it's not an ESPN partnered game, I guess.
No,
'cause
they
they're the one
bought
that
it.
own the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just an internet. I would imagine they will get more views in that game than several of the random bowl games.
Oh yeah, the bowl games are not. They're not created for the individual ratings. That's for damn sure.
But I do think that thing will have some success.
Events is what ESPN events is what owns most. Oh, absolutely, it will. That'll be good for McElwain. Might be great for McElwain. I'm rooting for McElwain.
Yeah.
As we record this, I got to sneeze. Has Mario taken the job yet at Miami?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. There was a report that he has, that it's done, then it's not done. He hasn't signed it yet. Several reports that he's the next head coach of Miami, which, by the way, if you told me Mario Cristobal has the opportunity to be the coach at Miami, like, I'd be shocked if he didn't take the job. He's from there. He played there. It's Miami. If they're going to pay him,
his mother is coming down the home stretch, who lives in Miami, correct?
Yeah, if they're going to pay him what Oregon would pay him, I don't blame him. I don't know how he doesn't take that job.
Yeah.
The question I had, that's not even like why it's taken this long is bizarre. I mean, I'm sure they've had this on the table since maybe before the game against Utah on Friday night.
I've never met him. You have. I would just guess he has put a lot of energy these last 2 or 3 years in building this program, right?
He absolutely has.
It's probably not an easy thing to leave. You keep telling me and everyone else on the internet they were actually built for the next 2 years, right? With all these fucking classes. And I would imagine what's the class he's got coming in right now? The best class out west by a mile.
Yeah, I don't know what Lincoln's latest updates are, but yeah.
But before Lincoln arrived, he was clear head and shoulders above. Like he was running circle. Like he was in the mix for a top 5 or 10 class, right? With all the big boys.
Yeah.
And he has been the last 2 years. So if you spend all this energy and you build this thing, some of these, I don't know. I'm not wired like a coach. It's kind of crazy they can just pick up. Now that you're like, he's going home. His mom
how many
is dying.
chances do you get? Like that would be. Now he is gonna have to. Like, is Manny Diaz gonna be out of the office by the time Mario shows up? I don't know. Manny hasn't been fired yet. It's fucking nuts, man.
A lot of coaches don't like doing that, right?
What?
They feel very insecure about, like, you don't get to talk to me until you get rid of your guy. It's like the coaching fraternity thing.
Oh. I'm just saying, what's happening? Like, what are they doing?
Well,
I don't. You're right, but they haven't fired him yet as we record this.
Well, they haven't hired an athletic director, right?
Well, they probably got to. But the story was they're going to hire their coach and then an athletics director, which makes no sense. You're right, Mario. Maybe it's like, I've built this baby at Oregon. This is special. But as you said the other day, I mean, it's not like Oregon just suddenly began to be a contender. Like, now he brought it back. But how many? I just would not blame him in the slightest if he took a Miami job. Now, I think it'd be like if you're Oregon, after what's happened in the last 13 days between the 2 games with Utah, you don't feel great about the state of things. But I would offer him whatever Miami's offer. I would offer him the big contract, because here's what I don't want to be doing on December 6th, starting a coaching search. When I know my coach can build a respectable program and recruit his ass off. Is Mario good enough to go to the playoff? Is Mario good enough to win a national championship? I don't know. But I know he's good enough to make my program a top 10 program. And that's worth the $8.5 million a year or whatever you'd have to offer him to try and keep him. So I would go all in on trying to keep him, because this is messy. Unless you knew that you could hire Chris Peterson, who coached there once upon a time. But they're in a weird spot.
What's their AD's name? Mullen?
Rob. Yep. Rob Mullen.
Isn't he, most people consider him he's been on the committee, like pretty high level.
Was the head of the college football playoff committee, the Gary Barta position a few years ago.
And Mario's been a guy that's been in the mix for some of these Southern jobs. You would think he has a short list and has an idea of if he could land. To me, you go West Coast. Chris Peterson, Jeff Tedford.
Yeah.
I do not think you can go back to the Chip Kelly well. I would 100% not do that. I think it's hard, right? You get spoiled winning big, which they did with Chip. They won really big, right? It was sweet. They were better even than they were with Mario. I mean, they went to a national championship. They lost in the game. They were going to the BCS games every year. They were awesome. Mario hasn't quite been as good, but they've still been really good. Like Chip was always top 5. Mario's more like 5 to 15. But you get like these recruiting classes are sweet. It's a fun thing to be like, we are top. We're right there with LSU, Georgia, Bama, and Ohio State, and us.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, I don't know if Chip's quite as good as he was, and we know he doesn't like to recruit. So we're just like part of the reason we're able to do this right now is because our recruiting classes are sweet. Like we're not getting Sewell with Chip, right? I mean, that's just there's a give and take. Chip does not want to recruit. That's where, to me, Tedford actually, again, health the ticker. Tedford recruited at the highest level, and he's a good coach. Like I saw him, like Marshawn, Deshaun, like that's who he wants. That's who Mario wants.
Who signed Buckner and Armstead? Is that not Chip?
Yeah, but for the most part, he was not recruiting at the highest level, especially toward the end.
And yet his teams but his skill guys look better than these skill guys. I mean, that was what's crazy. His teams were stacked. Right?
Well, and even at UCLA, like I would say he's a more buttoned up coach.
But Mario. I mean, his Oregon talent was stacked. Like, I know what these recruiting classes have been, but
he got popped for handing a brown bag of $25,000. Josh Gibson.
Well, okay, so he was playing the game. Do these Oregon teams look more talented than those Oregon teams? I don't. But
here's the thing: once that happened, he stopped. He didn't like doing that crap, and he clearly at UCLA has been like, guy. They just take all
academically different, right? Probably a little different.
I mean, UCLA gets dudes if they want, if they try. Morrow was getting Kenny Clarks and the Miles Jacks. Like you can get dudes there. You just got to try. I'll give Mario credit on this one. Pushing the envelope, whatever. He really tries recruiting, right?
He does. He does.
And he does.
And he hasn't been there. I think he gets a lot of criticism for like Anthony Brown, which is fair. I think they've whiffed on receivers in recent years, although the guys they had come in this year, the freshman this year, was a highly recruited receiver group.
Is number 2 supposed to be a good player? Williams or whatever? Is that guy supposed to be highly touted?
I think that's a transfer from SC.
Oh, okay.
Devin or Devon Williams, I think.
He's a tall guy. He made a play in the Utah game, but he was like, he shoved the guy and got a penalty, even though he kind of got hit late.
But my point,
where's our guys?
Yeah, my point on he was a redshirt freshman from SC, or sophomore. He hasn't been the head coach that long. Like he doesn't need to find a quarterback. He hasn't been the head coach that long. To me, so there's that. I do want to say this about Utah though, and maybe I've said this on the show before, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but I think it's why that Utah performance to me was just mind-blowing. When Washington lost to Alabama in the Peach Bowl a few years ago, it created this whole conversation around the Pac-12 about, is the Pac-12 getting big enough players to win in the trenches? And the answer was no. And so that became the primary focus is we're all the big guys. We're all the big guys. We're all the big guys. And then Mario started getting the big guys at Oregon. And it's like Mario was doing the thing for the Pac-12 that nobody else can do. It's a direct response to what we saw happen when Alabama beat Washington in the Peach. It's a direct response to what we saw when Ohio State got beat by Washington in the Rose Bowl, when Washington got beat by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. And Oregon is the one that's doing it. And Utah has rolled out with their guys, who are 3-star guys, that they develop, and nobody knows where they come from. I mean, people do. And has absolutely kicked their ass all over the field 2 weeks in a row. I think what I saw Utah do on Friday night in the Pac-12 title game, on one hand, is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. On the other hand, it's like, makes total sense. They just did it.
You just saw it.
Why couldn't they do it again?
Yeah.
But the fact that Utah did that as Oregon has built this program is incredible. Kyle Whittingham is a college football Hall of Famer. He is. It's not really that much of a debate. And as you texted me the weekend, he's one of the best college football coaches, period. He should be up for every job. Kyle Whittingham. I don't know if he would take one.
I texted you, if Mario leaves, I mean, it's happened before. The team's kicking your ass in your conference. You got more money than them. Wouldn't you offer him the job? You don't think he could take the guys you have on the roster and do it?
And develop.
I'm not saying he would leave, but wouldn't you offer him the job?
I would call absolutely. He'd be at the top of my list, just like he should have been at the top of SC's list. Just like I heard he was on SC's. That maybe he was going to take the job a couple of years ago when they hired Clay.
What's the linebacker Davis's first name? Number is it 10 or 8? You know, the guy that makes all their plays. The middle
Devin
linebacker.
Lloyd. 0.
Devin Lloyd. Yeah, Devin Lloyd.
0.
He's a 2-star. He is going to be a top 15 draft pick. I follow a bunch of Oregon people. The one knock on Mario is like, it doesn't feel the last couple of years like guys make huge improvements. Like, you know, the one thing with Kyle Whittingham, this always happened with Chris Peterson, this happened with Jeff Tedford. It's like guys improve. You know, Mario's getting these elite guys, and he's more of a CEO head coach, but it's like, I don't see this huge improvement. Like, Noah Sewell looks exactly like he did his freshman year, first game. Like, he's just solid. But it's like, you know, Thibodeau was, I don't know, the number 1 recruit in the country. Like,
offensively, their skill guys don't.
They look terrible. How is their backup running back die? Like, to me, that guy looks like a guy that would have been playing at Fresno State when you and I were there. Like, how's that guy their guy?
Do you think you'd feel that way if he had gloves and wristbands on?
No, he's just a small. Like, I'm not. If he's listening to this podcast right now, I'm not trying to diminish your toughness. You runs hard, but to me, you should be like 3rd or 4th on a depth chart of a team recruiting at the highest level. That guy's not playing for, you know, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, or LSU, or Oklahoma. He's just not.
Weird. It's weird. Now they have emphasized probably the lines, and they've recruited well there.
But I see the lines. Like, I saw their offensive linemen against Utah, and I get Utah's defense, and they hammered that home in that game. And you know this better than most. Like, I didn't realize. I mean, they got all these young guys. I mean, they got Lloyd, who's the older guy, but most of their guys are like true freshmen. That number 8 Bishop, the true freshman that beat out the older guy, I mean, he made every play.
Yeah.
They're clearly tough.
Classic, like 3-star guy, and he's actually from out of state.
All their offensive linemen are enormous, like all the guys in the Oregon uniforms wearing 70s and 60s numbers. They all look stiff and slow to me. They didn't look like that dynamic. I don't know. It might just been the matchup, whatever styles make fights. They look slow. And Utah clearly is not scared.
A few other things, John. Sneaky. Here's a couple just NFL things that are kind of sneaking up. Here's one that snuck up on me. I'll tell you this, and you can throw something else out. Now, they haven't really played anybody, but Tua, AFC's good, so they're still in bad shape. They're 6-7. It felt like Miami was having a disaster season. And then I look up, and again, not playing anybody today, but then I look up, they beat the Giants, they beat the Panthers, they beat the Jets, they beat the Ravens, they beat the Texans. Dolphins have sneaky won 5 games in a row against a who's who of the poop. They got a bye. Then they play the Jets. Okay.
So then 7-7.
Then they play the Saints. They could win that game.
Pretty winnable. Yeah.
Let's give them that game 8-7. Then they play the Titans. Let's say they lose that game. 8-8. Then they finish with the Patriots. Let's say they lose that game. But, you know, I've seen them beat the Patriots before. They beat them this year. But they could be
impressive year. Yeah. That's good job by Tua. I watched Tua. Even when he's playing well, I don't think anything different of him when I watch the little pea shooter.
No, they should still get Deshaun Watson if he's eligible to play football.
I had a DM, not from anyone credible, but just from someone that said they heard something that was like, I eat this thing up, that said the Texans love Trey Lance. They also love Darren Banks. They also like Trey Sermon. And that the Niners drafted those players to trade them for Deshaun Watson after the season because they like those guys. That's why they haven't been playing any of them. Like,
so they're not playing Trey Sermon. Hold on. So they're not playing Trey Sermon, not because he's not good enough, but because he's so good.
No, because the Texans like him. And then Elijah Mitchell was better.
And they don't want the Texans to know that he's not good enough?
No, they drafted him for the Texans.
Right. But now he's on their roster. So they just keep him inactive.
That's what they did with Banks and Trey. Yeah.
Banks and Trey. They just put him on ice. Amazing theory.
Incredible.
I mean, at this point, could you trade those 3 guys for Deshaun even if at this point, even if Deshaun's not eligible yet?
Only if they love Trey Lance and they're like, we get this rookie quarterback that we really like.
That's an incredible theory. Did you think he came up with this theory on his own, or is this like...
No, he showed me, I think, this was not like anyone in the mix. It was just, he showed me some like pictures and text messages It was very believable when I read it.
Pictures and text messages from Deshaun?
No, I just from another source.
Okay.
But again, this wasn't like some
isn't a source.
individual. No.
Gotcha.
It was just so out of left field. I was like, yeah, I could see that because they haven't played Banks. They've really tried to avoid Trey. And Trey Sermon, they clearly tried to avoid, but then they played him and he hurt his ankle. Now he's on the IR, so that's not ideal. Because what if you're the Texans? You're like, well, can I get Elijah Mitchell? You're like, nope, too good.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's the flaw in this is the Texans are like, after a year of information, haven't watched any football, and just want to do the same deal they would have done last year.
You just say 25's off limits, bro. It's just off limits.
Because they like, oh no, that's fine. We haven't watched 25. We want Trey Lance. Don't even worry about it. We know that when Trey Sermon. Don't even worry about it. When Sermon gets on the field, he's so much better than Mitchell. Who cares?
A lot going on there. So you just never know in this crazy world of
that's my favorite part now that we've talked about it of that theory is that they would still want to do the same deal today.
Well, he didn't know that. He just said that was the mindset, at the time because they had to let the other thing go. The problem is with that one, it's like, well, if I was Caserio, okay, you guys keep Sermon, you give me Mitchell. Right? Because now he's worth a second-round pick or whatever to me.
Yeah. I love that conspiracy theory.
And the other thing, I'd be like, well, you guys were so bad at right guard. It never crossed your mind when you're trying to make the playoffs to use Aaron Banks? Is he really not ready? You really saving him for me? Or did you just think he wasn't that good? It'd be easy to second-guess yourself.
Drafting 3 guys to do a trade that you never do would be an all-time draft move.
Yeah.
Or drafting 3 guys to do a trade that you do a year later would be an all-time draft move. And when I say that, I don't mean a good draft move. I just mean an all-time draft decision. Like, let's just take the guys the Texans like for this future Texans trade next year.
Seems absolute insanity, even thinking about it out loud. But if he pulled it off, you would get a lot of credit.
I would say this. Nobody with any options.
Texans were a little desperate because they didn't have any picks.
Yeah, no one with any options is going to want to be the Texans quarterback next year. Like, Jimmy, is not going to want to be the Texans quarterback next year. And people said last time we talked about no trade, and they were like, well, Jimmy's contract expired. It's totally dependent on contracts. Or somebody made the point last time we talked about it. Jimmy, the no trade expires, so he couldn't block the trade. But it is in the interest of the team who's taking on Jimmy Garoppolo, if he's acquired in a trade, to renegotiate his contract. So they are going to need his cooperation.
You're saying Jimmy's no trade clause expired after this season, doesn't kick in?
At some certain point. I didn't pay attention to the detail because I do believe that detail's irrelevant. Because
here's where I don't though, because if the Texans were the only team willing to let him play on that 1 year, $20 million, what if every other team, like the football team that wanted him, were like, he's got to restructure? If you're Jimmy, like, where are you ever going to get $20 million?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But even then, Jimmy would then accept that deal anyway. Like, someone's going to pay me $20 million and let me be a free agent after the year. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm saying if I'm a team, if I'm trading anything of value for Garoppolo, I want to know, A, he's not going to cost me $20 million, and B, that I'll have him for more than a year if I want him or I can cut him.
I don't think it would be crazy if you had a ton of cap space and were really shitty and you just needed a guy to kind of keep your head above water if you traded like a 7th-round pick and if like he had a Pro Bowl season that kicks into a 4th. I agree. Like you wouldn't do anything of value. But if you're just giving a 7th, you wouldn't care.
When do teams... I do think it's just good business to make sure a player wants to play for you at quarterback when you acquire him and to pay him $20 million.
Yeah, and I would say the going rate for a guy like Jimmy is probably closer to 10 than 20 million.
Yeah.
But if he hits a free agency, he might just have some options, so a team like the Texans wouldn't get him. So you basically just pay a late-round pick to get a guy that would not come to you for $10 million. So you just pay the $10 million tax, and you have all this money anyway, unless that trade deal goes through.
Joe says it's
for Sermon and Lance.
Insanity to pay Jimmy as your starting QB, yeah.
And Banks.
How about the Roethlisberger's last year in Pittsburgh story that came out this weekend? Dan Campbell, when the Lions won. I was happy. I saw somebody tweet some bullshit, something Saturday college football. Somebody fucked something up, and it was like, oh, this reminds us of Goff or something. I was happy to see I don't want to see Jared Goff and Dan Campbell go winless. So I'm happy for them, John.
Well, God, they had a win and a tie.
And but they were winless.
They were winless, yeah.
And you know what? I'll say this for the Lions. For a team that doesn't win, every time I watch them, they are playing their ass off trying to win. Like, this ain't no NBA team tanking for the first pick. These guys play their asses off. So I'm happy. They've actually been more entertaining than a lot of other teams in the league who have wins. Wouldn't you agree?
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. They have really, really tried. The effort, high effort. I was thinking it's a little easier. I mean, there's not like some Trevor Lawrence sitting there, right? I mean, it's like, okay, what pass rusher you want?
Good point.
I think the talk, if there was truly, like you had been this shitty all season and there was luck sitting there, people would be pushing back. Like, what are we doing? But do you want Hutchinson or you want Thibodeau? I think that they end up taking Hutchinson just in their backyard. He feels just Dan Campbell's going to love him, and Thibodeau goes to the Jags. And then all of a sudden they got Thibodeau and Allen. Like, you're like, damn, I kind of like the little pass rushing combo.
And Urban.
And Lawrence. And some problems.
Yeah. So, any other, I mean, the Minshew, did you see the Minshew video post-game of him hugging his dad?
Pretty cool.
Like, I've not always been the biggest Minshew fan because I saw somebody retweet it and some NFL person retweeted and said, I still don't understand. Who was it? I still don't understand how the Jags traded this guy for a 6th. He's the best backup in the league. Or a 7th, whatever the trade was. Not good value on their part. Made no sense. I do understand the problem with Minshew is a great problem, which is I don't know. My impression is being the backup quarterback, he's not down with it, which is not ideal with Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback. Yeah. So I understood it, but the guy refuses to quit. His story's incredible. He was an offseason away from being an analyst for Saban. He should be coaching the semifinal game on Nick's staff as like the quarterback coach. Instead, he's winning games in the NFL. And if you didn't see the video, he was fucking hugging his dad, like backslapping. He was so fired up as somebody screamed, "Gardner, sign this! Sign this for the troops! For the troops!" Did you have the volume on that video? Yeah. It was incredible. For the troops! I was so happy. That video, a person who believes in themselves like that when no one else believes in them is just so awesome.
Did he just Wally Pip the other guy? He threw multiple touchdowns.
This happens everywhere he goes. Everywhere.
I do think you can kind of play. I do think you can kind of play them both because one guy runs, he throws. What made no sense is how did this guy not get traded to? Like the Eagles had a quarterback. Hell, they had 2 Flaccos on their team. They just traded for him because Roseman knows value. We're like the Steelers on that one. Where were some of these other teams? The football team. I don't know. Some of these teams. I guess football team had Fitzpatrick. But yeah, he was an undervalued asset who clearly is a long-time backup in the NFL, right? At minimum. Because he can come in and he can win you a game. Now, didn't they play the Jets?
They did play the Jets, John, yes.
I notice a lot when I look up in some of these games, a team just gets a desperate win. It's like, oh, there's Robert Saleh on the sideline of the other team, right? So it's like the Jets are much more gutless than the Lions. This throughout the whole season. The Lions play harder than the Jets.
Yeah. Thursday night football this week, John, is Steelers-Vikings, so you have that to look forward to. Sunday night football this week will be Bills and Buccaneers. So the Bills get the Patriots and the Bucs on the road in prime time. In theory, you're kind of in the same calendar week, not in the same NFL week. Just a quick look ahead as we wrap up Sunday night, John. A few other games next week. Ravens-Browns. Okay. Raiders-Chiefs. Cowboys football team, sneaky big game at football team.
Big time.
Yeah. And Niners Bengals. Did you get to see much of the Bengals Charger game?
I watched the whole first half. I had on the second TV, and then I stopped really locking in.
Yeah.
I mean, they went up 24-0. I mean, Herbert looked awesome.
He did.
Herbert, they came out slinging. Then the Bengals came storming back.
They scored. It was 24 unanswered to 22 unanswered.
Then it looked like Burrow broke his pinky. Then Mixon got knocked out, but then both of them came back. Then they had that fumble that kind of was the killer. That's the last time I kind of started paying attention. They had a fumble. The Charger guy took it, and then the score was multiple scores, and it was kind of over. Nice win for the Chargers.
Yeah, one early Niner Bengal take is, and this is going to be probably easier for Jimmy than it was. Just you got to get rid of the football. The Bengals were on Herbert's ass constantly. I'm just looking. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tackles for loss. They had 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 QB hurries in the game, the Bengals defense.
I know the
And
Chargers
1,
offensive
2,
line has had some
3,
injuries.
4 sacks. They were all over Justin Herbert. So early read on the game was get the ball out of Jimmy's hands quickly, which is what Kyle's trying to do anyway. So
Godspeed, Jimmy.
Not a problem. All right. Anything else on that note?
That's all I got. We'll just keep swinging all week.
All right. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Adios.